Holy, we were this close from having a very different breaking news story because a video has just been released of a Southwest Airlines plane having to abort landing and pull back up because a private jet was crossing the runway.
I'm back to FITTI to the E, and today we're taking a look at these crypts. I'm back to FITTI to the E, and today we're going to be taking a look at these creepy TikTok videos. If you guys like the video, remember to like the video. These are the winners of the riddle. Yeah, I don't know, like everyone's been getting it. I'm gonna have to really up it, guys. Like I might have to really up it. I don't know, guys, this one might be a little bit hard, but if you know it, you know what I'm saying, put it in the comments. No cheating. What can run but never walks, has a mouth but never talks, has a head but never weeps, and has a bed but never sleeps? If you know this, put it down in the comments. It's a little bit harder, and as y'all know, these videos do get crazy, so make sure to watch at your own risk and remember to subscribe. I also have a special announcement. Finally dropping my haunted vlog video. I know some of you guys were like, don't do it, and some of you guys were like, please do it. I did it. It was supposed to come out Halloween, but you know what I'm saying, it took a little bit to make videos like this, so like you're not getting it until Marchoween. We finna call it Marchoween, and that's this Friday.
Ladies and gentlemen, please breathe through your clothing. Stay low.
Jesus Christ. I don't know, there's been a lot of aviation incidents going on lately. It's kind of scary.
The top 3 airlines that have never crashed, since that's something we're all concerned about right now. Number 3 is Southwest Airlines. I enjoy Southwest Airlines sometimes, and let me tell you, there is not a lot of pandemonium need for this worrying about air travel right now. It's pretty much as safe, if not safer, than it's ever been. It's just getting blown up in a media cascade. Number 2 is Hawaiian Airlines. Hawaiian Airlines, you can go to Hawaii all you want and don't have to worry. If you like this list and want more about other nonsense, follow me. Leave me a comment with the airline that's your favorite or one that didn't crash that I missed or something. Follow my wife Samantha, who I've tagged. Find me on Cameo if you want a personalized message. Number 1... Now this, I always think of Rain Man, the movie Rain Man, when Dustin Hoffman says it, because he was right. Rain Man was right. Qantas never crashed.
That's so ironic that he said Southwest never crashed. I'm recording this today on February 25th. And today, on February 25th, this is coming out tomorrow on the 26th, Southwest almost crashed. Wow. You know what airlines truly never crashed that everyone always hates on? Spirit. I've never flown Spirit, but I've known that it's never crashed.
Holy, we were this close from having a very different breaking news story because a video has just been released of a Southwest Airlines plane having to abort landing and pull back up because a private jet was crossing the runway at the same time. Now, this happened in Chicago this morning, and luckily, after performing a go-around, the Southwest plane landed safely. But what is going on? We need to lock in.
Yo, everyone on board that flight should definitely give that pilot a round of applause. Like, they were this close from the news being another plane crash into another plane again compared to him saving them, if that makes sense. So, round of applause to that airplane captain.
Crazy things happening in the world right now. Spike the Chihuahua, born on November 30th, 1999, is the only dog left alive from the previous millennium. A Florida judge used a Quest 2 to experience a crime firsthand. A declassified document from the CIA says they used astral projection to visit Mars 1,000,000 years ago, back in 1984. Taylor Swift did not actually sign a guitar that a man bought for $4,000 just to destroy. A woman was left disappointed after filming what she thought was Northern Lights, when in reality was actually a tomato factory nearby. A Wisconsin man was found to have faked his own death after being found in Uzbekistan. 4 43 monkeys still remain on the run from a South Carolina lab. Costco was forced to recall over 80,000 pounds of butter because the label forgot to mention that it had milk. A raccoon burst through the ceiling tiles at LaGuardia Airport. A British man passed away falling off a bridge in Spain while he was creating online content.
A man was caught attempting to smuggle cocaine from Cartagena to Amsterdam by hiding the stash under his toupee. The plot was foiled as the man attempted to board the flight last week. His toupee concealed 19 capsules of cocaine, street value estimated to be around $10,000. He has been arrested and he faces charges now of trafficking, manufacturing, and carrying narcotic substances. Back to you guys.
Toupee.
Creative. But not successful.
Didn't work.
Dude, that was hella creative. How did they even find that out? Like, that is creative. Like, you would have never, I mean, I personally would have never known, but they probably have machines for all that stuff.
He sees dinner. Just hold it nice and close to the top. Don't drop it yet.
Well, what the fuck is that, man? What?
Make him come get it.
He won't. You?
Thank you.
He's brave. That snatch could have literally been his hand. Just gone, just like that.
Some fun facts you probably didn't know. The Mona Lisa was stolen in 1911 for 2 whole years, and the museum thought it was out for photography the entire time. Great white sharks are showing up consistently at a mid-ocean location that we call the White Shark Cafe, for reasons we don't fully understand yet. China has over 3,000 miles of tunnels underground to transport intercontinental ballistic missiles. Inspired by how shipwrecks always create new reefs at the bottom of the ocean, New York City is now retiring subway cars in the ocean, dumping them to provide for new reefs. In Cluj, Romania, you can pay for your bus ticket by doing 20 squats. Meanwhile, elderly and disabled ride the bus for free, always. Bubble wrap was initially invented to be a wallpaper. Armadillos give birth to 4 identical quadruplets every time there's a birth. Genericide is the term we created when a trademark is lost because it becomes a generic name for that item. For example, escalator lost its rights when it became the general term for moving stairs.
Disturbing kid toys that wear banned evil stick. Hidden behind the foilet, show a demonic young girl. Taiman stars. There was a hidden message inside the Thai Monstars that says turn off the TV, potty time with Elmo. The Elmo toy was saying, who wants to die? Cuddle and coo doll. The doll was saying, Islam is the light. Cabbage Patch Kids. The doll almost ripped out a girl's hair. Sky dancers. It flew in random, unpredictable directions, which injured children and adults.
Having coffee injected into your veins could be one of the worst ways to die. This is another worst deaths imaginable. Viewer discretion is advised. This story happened in Brazil back in 2012 to an 80-year-old patient. One of her nurses was a trainee. She had just started, I think it was 3 or 4 days prior to working with her. This patient had 2 separate bags. One of them was for food, the other one was for medicine. The 2 bags are really close to one another, and the nurse would later say it's really easy to get them confused. I don't know the circumstances behind this, but the patient, I guess, was getting coffee and milk, I believe, was supposed to be injected into the feeding portion of, the tubes. But the inexperienced nurse instead injected the coffee and the milk directly into the bag where the medicine was supposed to go. Almost immediately, the patient began to react. She appeared to be in some kind of trauma. She was having a very loud reaction to this. Unfortunately, once this happens, it's pretty much already too late. It took about 3 to 4 hours for this patient to die from what happened. The coffee and milk would run straight to, according to the doctors who worked on her, it went straight to her heart and to her lungs. and basically it filled up her lungs and it caused her to have the effect of drowning. Not to mention it was actually a hot liquid. So slowly this patient drowned because of this, and she passed away after being in some significant pain and discomfort. I know that the 23-year-old nurse was charged with involuntary manslaughter. However, I do not know the outcome as to what happened to her. But unfortunately, because of her inexperience, this poor woman suffered for a couple of hours.
When it said it took her 3 to 4 hours to die, I was like, she suffered crazy.
I've never really been the one to believe in orbs, but someone explained this to me. Gabby Petito's family went to the location in Wyoming where her life was taken, and they all took a photo, and there was this thing that came up in the photo. Her family's convinced that that's her presence, and a lot of people also think the same thing, but I've never seen an orb that big. Others have had a different explanation for this, saying that it's the reflection of the sun with the lens, and that's why it created this thing. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
She took the life of her 3-year-old son so he wouldn't tell anyone about her affair. On April 28th of 2023, Dion Singh held an inauguration party for his new plastic store in India. Among the guests was Dion's neighbor Uday Indolia. Dion had no idea that his wife Jyoti Rathore was having an affair with Uday. While people at the party were busy socializing, Uday snuck off with Jyoti and they went to the terrace, and that is when they got physical with each other. But Jyoti had froze when she saw her 3-year-old son Jatin because he had followed her to the terrace. He had just witnessed everything that was going on with his mother and Uday. At this point, Jyoti is freaking out and she needs to come up with something, so she grabs her son and throws him off of the terrace, which was 2 floors. Jatin suffered serious head injuries and died the next day at the hospital. Jyoti's next plan was to lie to her husband and tell him that their son had fell off of the terrace because he had slipped. Because of this, she ended up having nightmares and hallucinations, and she ended up confessing to her husband. Dion recorded a video and audio of her confession and handed it over to police, and Jyoti and Uday were both arrested.
Dude, that is such an impulsive decision on the mom's part. She gonna do some scummy stuff like that and then throw her baby off. Yo, honestly, like, I don't condone this, but she could have honestly lied her way out of it. Like, she really could have if she really wanted to play it like that. But instead, she kind of chose an impulsive decision that gave her a quick solution, but a long-term consequence.
A cannibalistic family whose home is hiding an even darker secret. Let's talk about what might be one of the most terrifying games of the year. Cannibal Abduction. Full game playthrough on my channel. This is your worst nightmare. Your car stalls out deep in the American countryside and you're abducted by a family of cannibals. Explore the house, solve puzzles, and try to figure out exactly what's going on here. You know the family eats human flesh, but wait a minute, what was that noise? One of the family members knows you're here, and they are coming for you. Cannibal Abduction is an incredibly tense horror game that feels like the perfect slasher movie, and the twist ending was incredible and totally unexpected. Don't miss this one.
This is why you need to look behind you before taking a selfie.
The innocence of this picture makes what happened even more haunting. 3 friends stand on railway tracks, hoping to capture the passing train on the tracks beside them. They took a selfie and were really excited to get the close proximity to the train. The wind was even blowing in their hair. But do you see that light? That is another approaching train. Now, the girls couldn't hear that train on the track because they were so close to the other tracks and the other train. However, it was 12 seconds from when that photo was taken before the train made impact. Now, the train driver reportedly tried to blare his horn, but they must have assumed it was another train. 2 of the girls died on the spot and 1 later in hospital. For more 7 Sins Crime, hit that plus button.
There's a really strange missing persons case happening right now out of Utah. Let's talk about it. This is 21-year-old Elizabeth Green. She was last seen walking to work along a dirt road in Callio, Utah, which is an extremely remote area in northern Snake Valley. Like, there really isn't much out there, and the area she went missing is roughly 3 hours from any major city. Elizabeth had just started a new job at a remote ranch, and she was walking there that day, but never made it, and it's almost like she vanished into thin air. She was reported missing to the police police later that day, and they began looking for her right away. Authorities have searched the area around her home and the ranch that she was going to work at, including the route that she would have taken to get there, but no trace of Elizabeth has been found. Police searched the ranch, which has not been publicly named, just one day after Elizabeth was reported missing, but according to them, they didn't find anything suspicious. The rancher said that she never made it to the ranch that day and that he had no contact with her, so it's left authorities wondering what truly happened to her that day. Police have tried pinging her phone, but they aren't able to get a connection, and they've searched all of her electronic devices, but they've all turned up nothing. There's been no activity on her social media accounts since that day either. Her mom thinks that Elizabeth could have possibly been picked up that day, but she just doesn't know by who. There's also a possibility that she arranged to have someone pick her up, but they didn't show, which could have led to Elizabeth trying to walk through the remote desert by herself. According to her family, she does suffer from some mental health issues and has ran away before, but no matter what, she's always stayed in contact with her family and she's always come back within a day. She would never just up and leave like this. Just based on the circumstances, police believe that she's in immediate danger. Like I mentioned before, Callao is extremely remote and so far away from any major city, so the fact that she just mysteriously disappeared and left behind no trace in a matter of hours is just terrifying. It's now been over a month and Elizabeth is still missing. With the summer weather coming up, we need to find out what really happened to her that day. These are some of her characteristics and what she was last seen wearing. If you have any information about this case, please contact the number on the screen.
This next video was submitted to me by Sienna G, who received the following clip from her aunt. In the footage, Sienna's aunt is filming her son, who appears to be roaming around inside a room. Although initially thinking that her aunt had sent her a cute video of her little cousin, Sienna soon felt that something was off about the clip. It wasn't obvious at first, but upon watching it the second time, she instantly got chills. The clip, as it turns out, was sent to Sienna because something strange was captured. Have a look.
How mommy take out the stuff look like this? Check it out. Come on.
As Sienna's aunt films her son, she catches something passing by in front of the camera, but it's really quick when it happens. At exactly 17 seconds into the video, a dark silhouette emerges from the left side of the screen before making its way across the room. By slowing the footage, one can see that something distinct is moving past the camera, but it's also when you slow the footage that the video gets even more creepy. Looking at the figure frame by frame, you'll notice that it has a full torso and also what looks like an arm. However, one thing is missing: its head. Despite moving pretty fast, we can still make out what looks like a body, but nowhere in sight do we see a head. This fact alone is what spooked Sienna and her aunt upon looking closely at the clip. If no one else had been inside the room, then what was this? A definitive answer to this question has yet to be given.
I don't know if it's me. They said they can't figure out what it is, and it doesn't really have like a figure or a shape to it. But to me, it looks like bro's little sister. It looks like bro's little sister just ran across. I mean, I don't know. They said no one else was there, but to me, that's what it looked like.
So here are my personal reasonings why ghosts are a made-up fairy tale and that we need to stop believing them as a culture. Number one, little convenient that it's only at night that we see shit, right? You never see a ghost in the daytime. Darkness has this interesting quality about it that doesn't let you see. So, you know, you're not going to be able to see well. So people are looking in the darkness and their eyes are trying to make sense of anything and they think they saw something. If you stare at the darkness long enough, you're going to see something. There's a Twilight Zone episode about it. There's also a thing called pareidolia. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's a psychological phenomenon that makes you think you see faces and shit. Human beings evolved to understand facial recognition and, you know, subtle cues to communicate. So we're really good at that, but we see faces and shit that's not actually there a lot of the time. Another thing, a lot of people say that children and dogs have a little bit more connection to the spiritual world. I just find it convenient that animals and babies seem to have more of a spiritual connection to that side of the world. Maybe because they can't fucking talk and they're notably stupid. Do you know why your dog was staring at the edge of the bed and growling? Because it is stupid. Because it has 3 thoughts in total it can have and it can't watch TV, so it's bored. You know why your baby is staring in the corner and laughing? Because it doesn't know what the fucking human body can do yet. It's got the user manual and it's hitting random buttons and just trying shit out. Number 3, ghosts are most seen at spots that are spooky or deserted. What are the odds? It's always a spooky cabin in the woods or an empty mental asylum. How come it's never like, you know, DMV. If the argument is that there's bad energy there because something horrible happened, how come there's no ghosts at the beach? People drown at the beach every day. Why are there no ghosts at the beach? Also, how come it's always a human ghost? The majority of things that have died on Earth are not human. They're like ants and shit. How come I don't have rat ghosts running through my apartment?
That dude was funny. I'm not gonna lie. Yo, I've known so many people that will go to the grave, that ghosts, spirits, the afterlife, the afterworld is real. And I have some people that are like, nah, none of that shit's real. What do you guys think? If you guys believe in it, put your thoughts about that in the comments.
This is what things look like under a microscope. Now you're probably wondering what this thing is that looks like a bunch of happy faces. Well, this might shock you, but that's actually grass. Next up, we have a worm, and they don't look like they can hurt anybody, right? Well, once you see it underneath a magnifying glass, you might think different. And have you ever wondered what salt and pepper look like? Well, here it is. Why does it look like rocks and marshmallows? Now let's take a look at what a tiny ant looks like under a microscope. Here it is. Now that has to be the most terrifying one yet. Next up, we have a human eye. Here's what it looks like under the microscope.
Have you ever wondered how accurate police sketches are? Well, this sketch was actually pulled from someone's subconscious during hypnotherapy, so let's find out. In 1960, 4 teens were camping in Finland, and the last thing that this guy remembers was falling asleep. When he woke up, he was in the hospital, and he learned that he and his friends were attacked through the tent and that none of his friends had survived. The only thing was that teen, Nils Gustafsson, didn't remember a thing after falling asleep that night. And honestly, that caused a lot of people to think he was responsible for his friends' deaths. So Nils goes to hypnotherapy to see if he can recall anything from that night, and during hypnosis, he starts remembering a face. This is what he described to the hypnotherapist as the person who attacked him and his friends that night. And while this is happening, this man gets admitted to the hospital. He has splotches of red all over his clothes, and the nurses said it looked like he had been running through the woods. And I'm sure you probably see it, but this caused him to be the lead suspect. I cover the whole story this week on the podcast, which has so many twists and turns, including what this guy has to do with the story, so make sure you check it out.
What is a true crime case that just haunts you? This one is absolutely chilling. This is Susan Harrison. She was a mother and a wife, and she was described as an incredibly lovely person. In 1982, she met a man named Jim Harrison from her husband. They met because of her husband, and by 1988, they had both divorced their spouses and they got married. From the very beginning, this relationship was tumultuous to say the very least. Susan is not around to defend herself, but according to Jim, Susan would often become manic and she would start yelling and screaming and throwing things. These fights weren't just verbal altercations, they were often physical altercations. Now, Jim does say that he never physically did anything to Susan, that he only defended himself. This is Jim, and he is 100% adamant that he did not hurt Susan. But on the other hand, people who knew Susan said that this just wasn't like her, that they had never seen this side of her, especially her 2 sons, Nick and John. Susan's youngest son, Nick, remembers a night in particular where John was away looking at colleges and he was staying the night with Susan and Jim. And he says that he woke up at about 2 a.m. and heard them fighting. And then Susan ran into his room and said that Jim was hurting her. Nick decided he didn't want to stay, so he called John, his older brother's girlfriend, and asked if she would come pick him up. And she agreed to do that and told him to wait outside for her. He went outside to wait, but the altercation soon spilled out into the yard, and that's where he saw Jim physically hurting Susan. Nick says that he stepped in between Jim and said that he needed to stop hurting his mother. So he saw these physical altercations and saw that Jim was often the aggressor. But again, this is all alleged. This cycle would go on and off, with Susan leaving and trying to get restraining orders and then going back to Jim, as we often see in these kinds of relationships. But eventually it seemed as if Susan was stepping away from Jim, and she even started her own lampshade business called Shady Lady. But again, she would go back and forth and back and forth. And finally, her boys told her that she could either live with Jim, but they would be out, or she could choose the boys. And of course, she chose her children. On August 5th of 1994, Nick, Susan's youngest son, was going to Susan's house. They were going to visit relatives in Boston the next day, so he came the night before. When he arrived at Susan's house, he realized that the door was open and her keys were on the kitchen table, but there was nobody home. Nick waited in Susan's house until about 2 a.m, but Susan never came home. So the next day, he called John and let him know what was going on, and they called the police. We'll get into the investigation in part 2. Give me a couple of minutes to get it up. It should be down in the comments. Here is part 2 to the case of Susan Harrison. Police immediately started investigating, and the first person they wanted to talk to was Jim. Jim told police that Susan had come to his house that day and she had been very agitated when she got there, but she had taken a nap, and when she woke up she was feeling a lot better and they had a really good evening together. But after about 2 hours, he says that Susan fell asleep again, and when she woke up this time she was once again upset and visibly agitated. He told police that Susan became angry and belligerent and then left the house at about 10 p.m. and that was the last time he saw her. About 6 weeks later, they found Susan's car. They found it at the Washington National Airport, about 60 miles south of her home. It had a full tank of gas, the keys were in the ignition, but the batteries were dead, so they started to wonder if maybe Susan had just walked away from her life. Jim was asked to take a polygraph test, to which he failed miserably, but he said that it was just the test that was faulty and he was telling the truth. We do know that polygraph tests are notoriously unreliable, but it is still strange in my opinion and worth noting. But it's not just the polygraph that's strange. Jim changed his story multiple times when asked where he was the morning that Susan went missing. He told police that he was out on a jog, and people knew that he was the article said he was an overweight alcoholic who did not exercise. Susan's first husband also called him the morning that Susan was reported missing between 9:30 and 10, and Jim did not answer his phone. On top of that, the cleaning lady who cleaned Jim's house was asked to clean the basement, which normally was not used and very clean. She rarely went down there, and Jim didn't go down there either. But this time when she went down there, she said that there was a lot of dirt and it was really dirty. Jim also asked her how often she changes out her vacuum bags. The cleaning lady didn't know about Susan's disappearance when she was asked about this, but when she found out, she came forward with this information to police, but unfortunately she had already cleaned out the vacuum bag. There was another man that was working on the electricity or the lines around the house because apparently there was a power outage that night, and he thought he saw Susan's car leaving at about 4 in the morning, which is several hours later than when Jim said she left. On November 29th of 1996, which is about 2 years after she went missing, her remains were found. Susan's remains were found by hikers. They found it in a shallow grave. It was discovered that it was her based on the jewelry that were on these skeletal remains. The medical examiner believes that the injuries to her head conclude that this was in fact a murder. In July of 1997, police did execute a search warrant on Jim's house, but it's never been known if anything was found. And later that month, Nick and John, Susan's sons, would file a wrongful death lawsuit against Jim for $17 million that would settle privately out of court. And sadly, Susan's case has never been solved, despite there being very questioning circumstances around it. Jim did pass in 2007 at 71 years old and has never had to pay for anything that happened to Susan. But police are still actively looking for any leads. Personally, I think this case is just so tragic because there should be answers for the family and there's just not. But what are your thoughts on this? Let me know down in the comments and follow for more true crime.
Nah, that was so interesting. I was gonna say it was so random, but it really kind of wasn't, because she was like, yeah, you know, she went missing. Her car was just found on the side of the highway. But just out of nowhere, she was like, yeah, and then her remains were just found. I was like, okay, that was a little bit random.
You know what this video makes me think of? And it's going to surprise a lot of you actually, because what I'm about to say is not going in the direction that you think it's about to go in. But 6 years ago, there was an immensely viral Reddit post that I think about every single time I know somebody that has a baby. And I think about it so often because of the absolute plot twist that it has, okay? It was originally titled, "My husband is not bonding with our 5-week-old son and I'm not sure what to do." She said, just like the title says, my husband has yet to hold our son. He won't call him by his name. He always refers to him as the baby. He won't do anything to help take care of him. And on Tuesday, my husband moved into the camper to get quiet time, as he calls it. I've seen him for maybe 10 minutes since Tuesday. Up until our son was born, we had a great marriage. I don't know what to do. She then starts making these comments, right, where she's like, he's really curt and abrupt. He left when I was giving birth. He didn't come back to the hospital for 2 days. His behavior is so off from his usual self, it's like he's a completely different person. Obviously, everybody's like, what a fucking asshole, right? She's like, he was really excited right up until my water broke. Then he turned into this. Any tips for starting a conversation? He honestly scares me. I've never seen his eyes so cold. He used to be so affectionate. He hasn't kissed me, hugged me, or even held my hand since before our son was born. When I reach out to him, he recoils and pulls away. Girl, the plot twist that's coming your way right now, she ends up calling the fire department. Like an ambulance comes to check on him because she's like, I think he actually, like, something's like wrong, right? They take him to the emergency room and he can't remember his hometown that he lived in for 22 years, his mother's name, or his father's name. In genuinely the biggest twist I have ever seen on any Reddit post, this man has CTE, okay? She says, I met with a counselor that the neurological department employs to help patients' families deal with the fallout. She told me to prepare to take on more and more of the responsibilities around the house. It's a worry because my husband is the breadwinner and I can't replace his income on my skills and education. She explained that patients with the trauma my husband has exist on routine. When something disrupts that routine, like a new baby, they often can't cope. Without even knowing it, having a baby sent their lives into a complete spiral, okay? Because she says here, with my husband's injury, he can function well in a routine, but babies don't do routines. Babies don't do schedules. She ends up having to take care of not only her newborn baby and her husband, because doctors are telling her to, like, prepare to put him into an assisted living home because of how bad it is. But he's also basically losing his job. They can't afford his medical bills. The medical bills from giving birth to the baby are coming at the same time. They live 6 hours round trip from where he needs to get, like, care, like neurological care and checkups, like a couple times a week. So they can't go as often as he needs assisted. Like, I'm telling you, this ruins their lives. It's traumatizing. This is a very traumatizing post if you go and read it. But this part right here, she says that with a counselor, her husband held his baby for the very first time, and then he teared up and said, this is all I ever wanted, and I can't even enjoy it. Now, I'm obviously not saying that Justin Bieber has CTE, okay? The point I'm making is that having a child can sometimes be incredibly disruptive to people, okay? We know a lot about postpartum with women. Postpartum affects men as well, like maybe not chemically, but with, having a baby changes your life entirely. Even to people that you would think would have full-time nannies and a lot of help and this and that. I just, whatever he's going through, hopefully he's getting the help and that he needs. And I'm assuming, the people close to him are supportive and working on it. Because this is, like, obviously, like, it's hard to watch, and I really wish him and Haley and that baby the best.
Yeah, I mean, if you really think about it, having a child is a life-changing experience because, you're bringing another life into the world that you got to take care of for, like, its whole life, pretty much. I don't know, though. A lot of people have been saying that Justin Bieber has just been doing a lot of drags, like, a lot of, like, a lot of, and then that's why he's kind of been, like, in this weird phase. I mean, I feel like growing up, like, but at the same time, you really can't, though, because, like, how traumatizing that must be for him, because he's probably seen, heard, been through so many things with these grown, like, twisted individuals that have so much money and power that they can get away with anything. Like, as a kid, you don't really realize none of that, but as you get older, you realize, like, the industry is low-key kind of weird. And Justin Bieber has definitely been through a lot, mostly since he, like, got ushered in, no pun intended, by Usher, and then Diddy was Usher's mentor, so, like, he met Diddy, Usher, and all those kind of weirdos, you know what I'm saying? But hopefully he stays strong, he stays good, and he doesn't end up doing some stuff that he's gonna end up regretting.
Scientists out of Stanford University have recently discovered if you take 2 lab mice, one really old and one really young, infuse their circulatory systems together through a procedure called parabiosis, the cells that make up the really young mouse will deliver over to the really old mouse, permanently staying inside the old mouse, reducing the speed of aging in the old mouse by up to 11%. The young blood delivered to the old mouse will bring new life to the organs such as the spinal cord and even the brain. This new life found in the old mouse will help improve things such as cognitive function and physical flexibility. The study even found that this young blood will help the old mouse with things like sicknesses or even cancers. The young blood that was delivered to the old mouse will permanently improve its immune system. So all this research begs the question, does this work on humans? And the answer is right now, we don't know. But technically speaking, it's entirely possible. Tony Correa, the lead researcher in this experiment, released a statement about a month ago saying that he has full intentions on testing on humans. However, medical research on humans takes a really long time, so this could be something that we hear about within the next 2 or 3 years.
That'd be kind of strange. Like, what would we really do? Would we just hook up a teenager or a child or a baby to a grown 60, 70, 80-year-old?
Morris, a 15-year-old boy, decided to explore the Yamaga cave with his friends during a school field trip. Since he was already familiar with the cave from previous visits with his brother, he excitedly took the lead, unaware that he was heading in the wrong direction. As he advanced, the tunnel became increasingly narrow, forcing him to crouch and eventually crawl on the ground. At one point, he chose a path based on his memory, but being alone and without reference to his friends, he didn't realize he was going too deep. Suddenly, he slipped between two rocks and became completely stuck in a tight space, with his chest compressed and, even worse, upside down. In this position, blood started accumulating in his head and heart, increasing the risk of cardiac arrest. His friends, realizing that Morris was taking too long to return, alerted the teacher, who entered the cave to search for him. The teacher managed to spot the boy's feet, but due to the narrow space, he couldn't reach him. Lacking experience in such rescues, he attempted to pull Morris out using a belt, but it snapped, causing the boy to slip even deeper and hit his head, leading to bleeding. Seeing the severity of the situation, the teacher exited the cave to seek help. However, when professional rescuers arrived, they found that they were too large to fit through the narrow passage. To keep Morris alive, they brought in oxygen and a generator to light up the area, which slightly improved his condition. The plan was to pull him out with a rope, but due to the dark and confined tunnel, the rope kept slipping off. The solution came from a 14-year-old boy named Mike, who had a similar body size to Morris and was able to squeeze through the tight space. Mike securely tied the rope around the trapped boy, and everyone worked together to pull him out. After 26 hours of effort, Morris was finally rescued, suffering some injuries but without serious harm. This incident happened in 1965 and, despite the tension, had a happy ending.
Yo, that kid is so lucky. Yo, my biggest thing is, like, if you're going into the cave, why end up crawling on the ground into tight spaces like that? Like, you know, go in the cave, look, like, yeah, you know what I'm saying, cool cave, but like going in, crawling, and then getting trapped like that for over 24 hours, like, bro didn't eat, bro didn't, you know what I'm saying, use the bathroom at all. Like, oh my gosh, that's so torturous. At least he came out alive, dude.
Oh, this might be one of the most embarrassing government hacks we've seen in years. Yesterday morning, employees at the Department of Housing and Urban Development in Washington, D.C. showed up for work, grabbed their coffee, sat down, and then bam! TVs throughout the building got hijacked at 9 a.m. and they started playing this bizarre AI-generated deepfake of Donald Trump kissing Elon Musk's feet, with the words, "Long live the real king," scrolling across the screen. Yes, this is somehow real. The hack lasted several minutes, and because staff couldn't find a way to turn it off, they sent people to go around on every floor and just unplug the TVs. And while some found this stunt funny, with the freaking House Committee of Financial Services commenting on Twitter, "Not all heroes wear capes," others didn't quite see the humor, questioning how hackers were able to gain access to government building TVs. Now, eventually, the department's IT team managed to regain control, and the FBI is now investigating, but there is still no clue as to who is behind this.
I am actually crying. Imagine being Donald Trump or Elon Musk. I feel like Elon laughed at it. Trump might have been mad. Trump might have been like, these freaking hackers, man. And Elon was like, oh, it's okay, Donald, it's okay.
Grab your friends, grab a date, grab a snack, because I'm gonna show you something that only happens every 15 to 20 years. This is a map of our solar system in 2 days on February 28th, 2025. If you draw a line right here, you'll see that all 8 planets are on the same side of the sun. Once again, my apologies to Pluto for the disrespect. It's still incredibly cool, but kind of common for a couple of planets to line up in the night sky, but kind of rare for all of them to do it. And it will have just been a new moon, so the sky will be extra dark for you to see them. What this means is that for the next week or so, but specifically on the 28th, you'll be able to see the planets align in the sky, forming an arc of sorts. What you're seeing is the plane of the solar system, the ecliptic, which is very cool to see, because that's the plane of dust and gas that Earth and every other planet rolled up like a snowball from to form. To see Neptune and Uranus, you will need a little telescope to see them, but they're there. You should download a free stargazing app to figure out when the best time to see Saturn is from your specific location, because as you can see, from Earth's point of view, Saturn's going to be really close to the sun and kind of difficult to see. But happy stargazing!
That's actually really cool, but sadly for me, I cannot tell the difference between a planet and a star, and I don't have a telescope, so I won't be able to see it. But if you guys see it, take pictures, let me know in the comments. It'll probably be really cool, I'm not gonna lie.
For the first time ever, a man has been executed using the method of nitrogen gas, and it went horribly wrong.
58-year-old Kenneth Eugene Smith was sentenced to die for his role in the 1988 murder for hire of preacher's wife Elizabeth Sennett. And they attempted to end his life via lethal injection in November of 2022, but they aborted this after doctors failed to find a vein on his body after hours of trying. And after spending 3 decades behind bars, they finally decided on a different method, nitrogen hypoxia. But the death that was supposed to be quick, easy, painless, and humane ended up being a 22-minute horror show. People who had to witness this said they immediately noticed an undeniable change in facial expressions and body language of the entire staff. They said they saw absolute horror on the faces of those people and that Smith looked like a fish out of water flapping over and over again. They said people were so disturbed that they were tapping their feet constantly, unable to sit still, and many of them needed therapy afterwards. Let me know what you guys think about this, and as always, I'll keep you guys updated.
Here are some things humans were never meant to see. Now you're probably wondering, what is this? Well, it's actually a cat's tongue under a microscope. Now this is gonna gross you out, but this is what gummy bears look like when they're getting made. Here's the before and after. I'll never see a gummy bear the same again. And you were today years old when you found out this one. You know those long Bic lighters? Well, inside of it is actually just a tiny lighter. And these two photos were taken in the exact same spot, but they're actually just 100 years apart. And this is what a human heart looks like with no blood in it.
Skinwalker disguised as a horse.
Urban legends from around the world. The Luna Park Ghost Train Fire, located in Milsons Point, Australia. Here's the story. On June 9th, 1979, a devastating fire broke out at Luna Park. Said to be an electrical fault and 7 lives were lost. But here's where it gets weird. This is the last photo of Damien Godson. Him, his father, and his brother all died in the fire. This strange man approached them hours before the fire. He placed his hand on the little boy's head and the photo was taken. To this day, nobody knows who that is and why he was there. Legend says he was dressed up as the god Moloch, who asked for children to be sacrificed by fire. What do you think, foreshadowing or just a weird coincidence? Which country is next?
How long can animals survive without food? Wood frog. 7.5 months. Skunk. 7.5 months. Arctic fox. 8 months. Seal. 8 months. Walrus. 9 months. Tortoise. 10 months. Scorpion. 1 year. Ohm. 10 years. Tardigrade. 30 years.
It's just us humans that can only spend 3 weeks without food. They said there's a 3-3-3 rule. It's like 3 minutes without oxygen, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. But I'm pretty sure you could probably stretch it, because I've seen some cases where humans go like 2 months without food, you know what I'm saying? So I think we can naturally spend like 2 months without food, but around 2 months, that's when it gets kind of sticky.
Here are some facts about the world that you probably didn't know. Walmart released their data last year on what people stock up on the most before a hurricane, and the answer was strawberry Pop-Tarts and beer. Not only has it been more than 50 years since the last person walked on the moon, the entire time period where we were walking on the moon was only 3.5 years. Antimatter is the most expensive substance on Earth, costing $62 trillion per gram. In the 1940s, there used to be a male-only penthouse at Walt Disney Studios in Burbank, including a rooftop patio where they would sunbathe, but they had to stop that from happening because they found out that nuns across the street were watching them. The highest revenue Panda Express location in the entire world is in a mall food court in Hawaii. Animals yawn based on how big their brain is, so the longer the yawn, the bigger the brain. British Airways offers a Flying with Confidence course that has a 98% success rate on helping people get over their fear of flying.
Morbid Facts, Part 532. Cult leader Amy Carlson, aka Mother God, convinced her followers that she was God, a 19 billion-year-old being, and that she could heal people from cancer with the power of love. Amy claimed she had reincarnated 534 times, with her past lives including Cleopatra, Jesus Christ, Harriet Tubman, and Marilyn Monroe. But Amy's health began to rapidly decline after she herself was reportedly diagnosed with cancer in 2020. She was eventually paralyzed from the neck down and begged her members to take her to the hospital, but they refused, and she ended up dying in April of 2021 at the age of 46. When police were alerted, they found her mummified corpse in a state of decay that suggested she'd been dead for several weeks. It was stuffed in a sleeping bag wrapped with Christmas lights, with the face covered in glitter and both eyes removed. Authorities stated it was a makeshift shrine and ended up charging 7 members of the group with desecration of a corpse.
Here's the fact that I find really messes with my head. Dinosaurs lived on the other side of the galaxy. You see, just like our planets orbit the sun also orbits this, a supermassive black hole in the center of the Milky Way. And it takes us about 230 million years to go around it. So if the dinosaurs looked up at night, their sky would have looked completely different constellations, stars in different places, because the dinosaurs were literally in a different part of the galaxy.
Did you guys hear about the woman who was forced to give up her baby after 5 months because of an IVF that went wrong? Christina Murray began her IVF process in 2023 with the clinic Coastal Fertility, and they transferred an embryo into her, and she gave birth that following December. Christina chose a sperm donor with dirty blonde hair and blue eyes, which are features very similar to hers, but when her baby boy was born, he was dark-skinned and clearly African American. Christina let the clinic know that something must have went wrong, and they told her and confirmed that, yeah, we made a mistake. After a DNA test was done, it was confirmed that the baby was not genetically related to her. Nevertheless, she fell in love with this baby and she formed this strong bond, but she was forced to give him back to his parents. The baby's biological parents sued Christina for custody, and she volunteered to give him up after her lawyers told her that she had no chance of winning in court. This is so heartbreaking. This woman carried her baby for 9 months, created a strong bond, loved this baby to death, only to be told that she had to give him up after 5 months.
Here's 3 times when you should not drink water. Number 1, right before bed. It can lead to poor quality sleep as you'll need the bathroom during the night, and it may potentially even cause facial swelling in the morning. Number 2, to wash down spicy food. Water actually spreads the capsaicin molecule, which is the thing that makes your mouth feel on fire, therefore making it worse. Drink milk instead. And finally, number 3, if your urine is colourless. This water overload can lead to low sodium levels, which may potentially have damaging health consequences, even a heart attack. Now comment the most amount of water you've drunk in a day.
When I was really active, I would say like over the summer, I was drinking literally a gallon of water a day. And some of y'all might be like, oh yeah, this kid's lying. And I'm being so honest. Like I literally walk around with a gallon of water every single day. Nowadays, I drink only half a gallon of water, but usually like a gallon, between half a gallon to a gallon a day.
And cartoons from different countries. USA. SpongeBob SquarePants. India. Family Guy. Venezuela. The Simpsons. Saudi Arabia. Pokemon. China. Winnie the Pooh. Australia. Peppa Pig. Turkey. Powerpuff Girls. Poland. Teletubbies. Vietnam. Dragon Ball Z.
Amazing things you have never seen before. This man was walking in his yard and the ground started moving. This isn't fried chicken, it's actually a crystal. This is what the top of Mount Everest looks like. It was so cold that this person's food froze midair. This is what a cat's tongue looks like under a microscope. It looks like a bunch of smaller tongues. And I bet you've never seen a brick road machine. I always thought people did it. Animals that were caught in 4K. This cat taught himself how to drink water from the fountain and the owner caught him in the act. This sign is supposed to scare off trespassers, but this isn't much of a guard dog. And this family was sleeping when they caught a bear breaking into their home on camera and even opening the fridge for food.
Can you pass the hearing test?
Today we're talking about the Jaws movie animatronics and how huge they are and how gross and terrifying they also are. So this was a little drawing schematic that was put out for the Jaws movie and like how they were filming it. And like look up here, that's what it looked like underwater. This disgusting, look, there were two people in the water in scuba suits with cameras to film them. This would be $1 million a day job for me to hold down. I could not. This is really icky. Not that icky because it's not in the water yet, but these hydraulics that I know are gonna go in the water, yay. Why is bro booping his snoot like it's a cute little puppy? That is not a puppy, that is terror. Also, why would you do this? Why would you get in the mouth of an animatronic shark? This is fake for TikTok. This is fake. It's a fake shark. Do not do this at home. Why would you do this in the first place? Is that Steven Spielberg? I don't know what he looked like in the 70s. This is icky. This is an icky photo. I don't like this at all. I showed this one in the video yesterday of how big it is in comparison to a human. That is also from the video yesterday talking about the animatronic and Japan. You know what this reminds me of? This picture of the animatronic shark? It reminds me of the shark, robot shark from James and the Giant Peach. Does anyone remember this? I was terrified of this at 3 years old. So yeah, could you work on the Jaws ride movie if we were to go back in time? I bet not.
50 people have died just hours after showing symptoms for a mystery illness in the Congo. According to the World Health Organization, the outbreak began after 3 children ate a bat. Since then, 419 cases have been recorded, and all those who died did so 48 hours after developing symptoms. The CDC have since told thedailymail.com that international risk of the disease is low.
You know, as a kid, I understand, because like when I was younger, I used to lick sand off of my hand and shit. But like, why are you eating a bat? How do you, like, what do they do? I don't even want to think about that.
How many things Elon Musk can actually buy? Part 3. Firstly, as of right now, Elon Musk's current net worth is around $430 billion, and you wouldn't believe what he's able to buy with his money. So if Elon really wanted to, he could purchase around 1,600,000 Ferraris. That's an insane number. However, for his own car brand, he could realistically buy over 10 million Teslas that are brand new. Now, if Elon wanted to spend his money at the movie theater, he could buy 35 billion movie tickets, or he could fund almost 1,500 mega-budget movies like the Avengers and just create his own movies. Moving on, if Elon wanted to make Tesla cruises, he could purchase around 477 cruise ships, or he could buy around 14,000 personal private jets. Finally, if all that's too boring, if Elon really wanted to, he could buy around 2 million different people a brand new $200,000 home. The amount of money he has is absolutely mind-boggling.
I am so concerned for this man on TikTok. It's really giving, like, how far would you go just for a video? He hangs out with these, like, random indigenous tribes, and apparently these are the guardians of the tribe that he was hanging out with. And he calls this tribe the scariest tribe in the country in the video. Like, is he not concerned for his safety? Not that the tribe itself is, like, necessarily dangerous, but, like, these people don't speak the same language as him. They don't know what he's doing, really. Like, he's making TikToks, but like they don't have like technology and stuff in their tribe. Like they don't really know what's going on. And it seems that his account is like dedicated to making videos like this. Like he has been with many different tribes. And it's like, do they even understand what like the phone is? I just have so many questions. And then in one of his videos, he was like, I'm hanging out with like these cannibals. And I'm just like, you are not a part of their tribe. Like, that could be really dangerous. Not that these people are necessarily dangerous. They seem really sweet, like letting him in. You just don't know because you can't understand them. You're speaking a different language. Come over here for more content. It really helps when you interact.
Keep it a stack. I would not be surprised if like 2 months from now we hear that guy go missing. I'm like, dude, you're running a risky game with that one, buddy.
The video I'm about to show you is freaking out the internet. Take a look at this deer and watch what it does. People believe that this deer was shape-shifting and that it might be a Wendigo. Wendigos are cannibalistic shapeshifters from Algonquin folklore. Could this be a Wendigo about to shapeshift into its true form? And it caught the camera and it's like, oh shit, can't do it now. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Also, follow me on YouTube, link in bio for me. Just do it.
I'm dead. I doubt a Wendigo knows what a camera is. It probably just seen bro and was like, nah.
A bizarre vegan cult has left a trail of death across America. But not long ago, they were just a group of young, talented tech people trying to save the world. So what went so wrong? And warning, this gets weird as hell. You see, too many villain arcs begin with a rejection. I mean, we're not even going to talk about art school. And this one is no different. Jack LaSota, a trans woman, was pushed out of a radical online community known as the Rationalist movement after Jack's ideas were too extreme, even for them. One of which was the idea that the two hemispheres of the human brain had different genders and were actively trying to kill each other. But being kicked out didn't mean that those ideas just went away. Jack took his online username, Ziz, and created a group that became known as the Zizians. And they didn't just want to talk about their ideas online, they wanted to create a new way of life. And in 2017, they took those ideas seriously. Somewhere off the coast of California, they acquired an old, rusting World War II era tugboat, and their plan for it was radical. Create a floating community of free-thinking individuals who would live outside the rules of society, focusing on philosophy, AI, research, and radical veganism. And after 5 years of living on this boat, they probably thought they had achieved this. But locals who saw the Zizians on board, they described them as dirty, isolated, feral humans. And after this rusted old boat started actually sinking, the Zizians were forced on land, and that's where things turned dark. Homeless and desperate, the Zizians relocated to California, and that's where they met 82-year-old Curtis Lynn. He rented them a space in his trailer park for around $2,000 a month, and at first, things seemed stable. Then, suddenly, they stopped paying. Curtis tried to evict them, the Zizians refused to leave, and the situation spiraled to the point where Curtis was attacked with a freaking sword. He was impaled through the chest, inflicted multiple stab wounds, including one that blinded his right eye. But despite his severe injuries, he managed to shoot 2 of his attackers, one fatally, and somehow he survived. But then, just last month, days before he was actually supposed to testify in court against the Zizians, Curtis was fatally stabbed in the neck outside his home by someone with the name Maximilian Schneider, successfully stopping him from ever testifying. And this was just the start. Another Zizian member was arrested after both her parents were found shot dead inside their home. And then also last month, 2 Zizian members got into a full-on shootout with Border Patrol, which resulted in the death of one of the officers and one of the members. And inside their car, authorities found night vision goggles, tactical gear, and an arsenal of weapons. Authorities realized this wasn't just some group of fringe intellectuals. This was a violent cult. And all of this led to the most recent arrest, the leader, Jack LaSota. Ziz was arrested dressed in all black, carrying ammunition belts and a weapon. And unfortunately, it doesn't even stop there, because authorities believe that several of these members are still out there, some in hiding and others possibly even planning their next move.
So you like anything creepy, but have you heard of the urban legend of Carmen Winstead? 17-year-old Carmen Winstead was in high school. Her dad had lost his job, so they had to relocate to Indiana so he could get a new job. Carmen was finding it very difficult to leave her friends behind and make new ones, and because of her fear of criticism, it was very hard to do that. The first 2 semesters of her new school were very challenging, but things started to turn around when she became friends with a group of 5 girls. These girls appeared to be nice, but Carmen found out that they were gossiping and spreading false information about her. One of those rumors was that Carmen was having an affair with the school's janitor. Another one of those rumors was that she would wipe her snot on people when they weren't looking, and there were many more rumors that just ruined her reputation at that school. These girls started calling Carmen derogatory names, breaking into her locker and stealing her items. It had gotten to the point that Carmen was fed up with the bullying, so she was going to stay after school to talk to the teachers about it. That same day, there was a fire drill right after lunch, and as everyone was waiting for roll call from their teachers, Carmen was spotted near a sewer opening with those 5 girls. Those 5 girls had a plan to push Carmen down that sewer opening, and it would be so embarrassing for her and the whole school would laugh. Those girls swarmed her, pushed her, and shoved her into the sewer opening.
One of the girls yelled, "She's in the sewer," giggling, and the teacher went to go check on Carmen, and when she saw Carmen, she was standing still and her head was turned to one side. The police were called, and once they arrived, they saw that Carmen had scraped her whole face off when she went down and her neck was broken. All of the students had to stay behind and be interrogated, and the 5 girls claimed that Carmen had just fell down on her own, and because of this, the case was closed and classified as an accident. A few months later, strange posts from an identified person started appearing on the Facebook of the students that went to Carmen's school, and it stated that her death was not an accident and she was pushed. That unidentified person left a window of opportunity for the people involved to come forward and to turn themselves in, and if they didn't, they would face the consequences. No one came forward, and those 5 girls were found dead one by one. As a ghost, Carmen would send chainmail, and if those people that received it didn't send it to 15 people, then she would kill them. According to the legend, Carmen will get them whether it's a toilet, shower, sink, or a drain. When those people would wake up, they would be in a sewer, paralyzed and terrified, hearing laughter all over the place, and then Carmen would tear their face off. Whoever would obey Carmen's demands, she would look after and protect them for the rest of their lives.
So much has happened in the past 24 hours, it's insane. Trump announced that US residency is now officially up for sale. They unveiled this brand new visa program which has never been done before, called the Gold Card. It allows you to work in the US, gives you a route to citizenship, and it costs $5 million. Trump says that it will bring in wealthy, world-class global citizens. Next, Chile declared a state of emergency last night after a blackout plunged almost 19 million people into complete darkness. It affected almost the entire country. Hospitals, prisons, and government buildings were switched to backup generators. The internet and mobile phone services went down. You couldn't withdraw cash. National Guard forces were deployed onto the streets, and a curfew from 10 p.m. till 6 a.m. was put in place. Next, Trump signed a price transparency executive order, which forces hospitals and health insurers to disclose healthcare cost details, and not estimates, but actual prices. Next, phone theft in the UK has got so bad that the government has given police new powers to enter properties without a warrant if tracking apps like Find My see that stolen devices are inside. In fact, this is just one of a whole package of new laws passed by the British government in order to tackle the country's knife crime, shop theft, antisocial behavior, cybercrime, etc. It's become one of the biggest legislative updates for policing in decades. Next, more than 250,000 Canadians have signed a parliamentary petition to try and revoke Elon Musk's citizenship and passport. If you didn't know, Elon is a triple citizen of South Africa, the United States, and Canada. Next, a mystery illness in the Congo has killed more than 50 people only hours after they began feeling sick. The Africa office for the WHO said that the outbreak began after 3 children ate a bat and died within 48 hours. CNN report that the still unknown illness has symptoms which are commonly linked to known deadly viruses, such as Ebola, dengue, Marburg, and yellow fever, but that researchers have ruled these out based on tests of more than a dozen samples they've collected so far. Next, and lastly, you ever wondered what happens if someone dies on a plane but you're still halfway there? Yesterday, on a Qatar Airlines flight, a woman collapsed in the aisle and died. Cabin crew tried to move her body towards business class, but, quote, she was quite a large lady and they couldn't get her through the aisle. So instead, they had to place her corpse, covered in blankets, next to this couple from Australia for the remaining 4 hours of the flight. As always, I'll keep you guys updated.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm still kind of starstruck on the kids that ate a bat. It's like, did we not learn from what happened in 2020 about eating bats?
Where do human souls come from? Some people may think that they come from heaven, but that's not true. But you did exist before you were born. So when God says stuff like, "Before I knit you in your mother's womb, I knew you," well, he's not just making that up. You did exist before he knit you a body in your mother's womb. Now that's the most practical thing you ever heard. Observable 1 billion times over. People are still gonna argue with me over, but watch. Right now you have a human body. It's pretty big. As far as size and scale goes of things creeping, crawling, walking, or flying on this earth, you're pretty big. Not as big as a whale or an elephant, but you're not as small as a little grasshopper either. Compared to a single-celled organism that only has 1 cell for a body, where you got billions of cells for your body. A little single-celled organism only has a little bit of mass. You have a lot of mass compared to that. I'm not trying to insult you or anything. And the reason we're talking about mass is because that really affects how you perceive the passing of time. Time is relative, and this isn't something we're guessing about. It's something we can test and repeat that test and observe the same effects over and over and over. It's consistently observable. that time is relative and how much mass you have affects your perception of its passing. Time does not pass the same for everything all the time. As a matter of fact, time passes very differently for everything all the time. For instance, photons of light have no mass, and so they experience no time. You know, the scientists say that the light traveled billions of years across the universe to go into your eyeball so you see it in the sky. Now, while deep time is totally unnecessary in the equation, it's just not, you just don't need it, so. Other than that fact, doesn't matter how long it took the photon to get here, the photon doesn't have any mass. It experienced zero time between leaving and arriving. It's always just right now for the light. Get it? So according to the photon, it's both where it started, where it is now, where it's going, all at the same time. Just to put some things into perspective, that time is very tricky, and it's very related to how big you are in relation to mass, not necessarily to size. But they're usually interconnected. Except it is true that sometimes some very small things are more denser than some very big things. Happens that way. Another example is the grasshopper. Dude only lives 1 year. And any way you cut the cards, it is 1 year as humans count the passing of time. Like regardless of how the time is perceived to pass, the grasshopper only gets 1 revolution around the sun, as the Globers say, right? So the human and the grasshopper both agree. A grasshopper's lifespan is only 1 revolution around the sun, okay? But because he's so small, that 1 revolution around the sun was a long, full, 80-year, full life experience. He didn't witness it going by super fast like a human did. He witnessed it go by super slow like a grasshopper does, so that his 1 year perceptually is the same as your 80 years. His lifespan to him lasts as long in the perceiving as time as yours lasts to you. Because mass distorts the fabric of space-time, bends it, so that things have a longer path to travel to cover what would be the same distance if the fabric was just flat. Mass doesn't just bend the fabric of space-time, it stretches it out, creates more space, and therefore takes time longer to travel. This is called gravitational time dilation. I didn't make any of that up. This is called classical physics and relativity. If anybody made it up, it's Einstein. Blame that dude. So I said all that about mass and the fabric of space-time because you have not always had this much mass. Matter of fact, you lived a whole life as a single-celled organism before you ever had a human body. And by whole life as a single-celled organism, I'll say more. We are 3-dimensional beings walking around in the 4th dimension of time. And I mean we walk on the 3rd dimension of the earth through the sky, which is the 4th dimension. That breeze blowing on your face, that's the sky. That's time you are walking through. Or sitting as it passes you by. Where you're sitting decides how fast or slow it passes you by. I mean, at the bottom of the building is one thing, at the top of the building is even another. And though the difference is minuscule, I mean, it's proven. The faster you're traveling, the slower time passes for you, even if according to your perception, the clock on the dash moves as slow as it always does. You're aging more slowly than everybody else that's not traveling as fast as you are. It's relativity. That's what it means. So when I say before you ever had a human body, you lived an entire, full experience of a life as a single-celled organism, even if it was very quick. From our human perception, from the single-celled organism's perception, it was slow and arduous, 80 years long. But God is far above the 4th dimension of time. Time passes far differently for stars in the 5th dimension than it does for humans walking around in the 4th dimension. Stars are immortal from our perspective. And then above that is paradise, where the throne of God is, where he sits and looks down on time. It's not as if time doesn't pass. Up there it does. But from those very large beings up there in the 3rd heaven above it all, a human life is a wisp and a vapor. Zip! That's a whole human life. 80 years right here. From the vantage point of God's throne, and anybody around that area up in paradise, right? A human life is this right here. Zip! Did you miss it? It's this fast. Zip! generations I just displayed of humans being born and dying on zoop, zoop. There's another generation, zoop, there they went, zoop, there they go. Time passes differently depending on your position in reality for certain, and also your mass for certain. Passes differently for light than it does for darkness for certain. Not only that, but how fast or slow time is moving waxes and wanes like everything else, stretches out and contracts, right? It's time and space, stretches out and contracts. When space stretches out, time stretches out with it. When space contracts, time contracts with it. Gravitational time dilation, not making it up. Read that in the scientific papers that have been both peer-reviewed, published, and also on top of that is the mainstream science, right? You don't have to agree with it. You do what you want. But what I can test and measure and observe for myself, I can get on with. Before you were ever a human, had a human body at all, you had a body made out of one single cell and you lived an entire life as such. You were first formed in your father's loins before ever your mother's womb. And you were born first from your father and had a whole life after that, didn't you? But it was so fast from our vantage point means nothing to relativity. You lived an entire experience of a life, a whole hero's journey, start to finish. You were born as a single-celled organism from your father's loins. And God did know you. As a matter of fact, he gave you instructions on what to do. And by following them, you entered the egg, and the promise was true. What promise? He said you must be born again. He said stuff like, I go and prepare a place for you, right? God made every one of us a promise. In a previous life we all had as a single-celled organism. Let no person say they never asked to be born. Hey, guess what, y'all? You raced for your entire life and beat out millions of others to be born. Ask for it. You competed for it. You gave your whole life in search of it. A myth, a legend, a dream. Surely only fools pursue such thing as being born again, the other single-celled organisms said. Now, Jesus said to humans, except a kernel of wheat, except a seed, fall into the ground and die, it abides alone. But if it dies, it brings forth much fruit. Except a seed go into the ground and die. And right there is where it happened. That is where you as a single-celled organism died to be born again, giving your life to the instructions and the promise in hope. The zinc explosion, your body got scattered all over the inside of that egg. That egg that called to you like Holy Jerusalem calls to Christians now. That is not a sperm entering the egg, that's a coronal mass ejection. Looks to me like the egg calling. Dang, what does the earth look like? That signal from the sun keeps hitting it on its journey. Just to tell you, all things give this example right here, even grow in a garden. But there is the sun and there is the earth, and what does that look like to y'all? I mean, but every one of us on earth followed God's instruction according to his promise and hoped to be born again, and it happened. Sperm souls only get to become human souls if they follow the instructions, enter the egg, and die. And that is the moment where a sperm soul ceases to exist and a human soul begins. God knew you in your father's loins and in your race to the egg. He was cheering you on. You did it! Do it again.
Wow. That was so deep. Like, why did he make it so deep? Like, that was actually crazy. If you really listened, like, that's also, like, you know, we don't know anything for a fact, but, like, that perspective is a really good perspective. Like, I kind of liked what he did there. Like, that was really good. That was really good connections. Let me know what you guys think about that video, because I like that video.
Microsoft have just shocked the world after announcing that they have created an entirely new state of matter. Yeah, you heard that right. It's not a solid, liquid, or gas. It's a phase of matter that only exists at the quantum level, called a topological state. So what the hell is a tech company doing making scientific breakthroughs? One very important reason: quantum computing. Because yes, while we're all currently talking about AI, there's another less spoken about pursuit that would drastically change the world as we know it. And after Microsoft's quantum chip breakthrough, which I'll get into, it now seems more possible than ever. Let me explain. Remember that scene from Endgame when Tony Stark asked Jarvis to run a bunch of different simulations to see if his models would work for time travel? Well, essentially, that's the capability of quantum computers. Currently, if scientists wanted to create, let's say, like a new material that self-heals, so that buildings would just fix themselves, or clothes would stitch themselves back together if torn, well, they would have to trial and error their way through the discoveries. They'd mix a bunch of chemicals, test their properties, and hope to find something useful. But this can take years. However, kind of like how Jarvis did with time travel, quantum computers could step in and simulate a bunch of different materials at the atomic level with extreme accuracy, predicting their properties before they even exist. Essentially, they could exponentially speed up that trial and error phase. And that level of problem solving could tackle so many issues we face today. A cure for cancer? Sure. Climate change? Why not? Nuclear fusion for potentially limitless clean energy? Sure. But where the hell does Microsoft come into all of this? Well, they just said that the chip that they created, the Majorana 1, has the potential to hold more computational power than all the combined computational power that exists on the planet. And it fits in the palm of your hand. Yeah. And they were only capable of achieving this because of that new state of matter that we mentioned earlier, the topological state, and it is wild. Now, because Majorana particles hiding quantum information from environmental noise means nothing to you, think of this new state of matter like this. If normal states of matter are like ink on a paper, where a small mistake like smudging it with your hand ruins everything, a topological state is like a tattoo, where even if the skin stretches or moves, the design stays intact. More simply put, this state of matter is more resistant to errors, and this stability could help Microsoft solve the biggest problem we currently face with quantum computing, which is error correction. And while this is a genuine breakthrough, we're not like fully there yet. It's more of a we made the engine moment rather than we just made the entire car and you're ready to go. They would need around 1 million qubits to start solving those real world problems at scale, and currently they've created about 8. But it's still damn impressive.
Quantum computing is like we're in a Jimmy Neutron episode or something. That is actually crazy. But what he said something that I really thought about. It's like, what is Microsoft making scientific breakthroughs? Like, this is a technology company. I mean, I guess quantum technology is technology, so it makes sense. We're living through real life evolutionary things right now. Some life-changing things.
This is the ring pistol, the world's smallest gun. To fire it, you first unlock the chamber and load 6 tiny bullets. Once the magazine is locked back in, you can wear it as an ordinary ring, but in a moment of danger, it can fire 6 automatic rounds, ensuring the death of 2 people.
So there's been a lot of chimp attacks in history, but this one sticks with me in the worst possible way. And no, this one's not about Travis. St. James Davis was a former NASCAR driver that adopted and raised a pet chimpanzee named Mo. This ain't going the way you think it is. For almost 30 years, Davis and his wife raised Mo like he was their son, and Mo was even the best man at their wedding. Except there was an incident where Mo bit an officer hard enough for her to need stitches, and the two were forced to give up Mo to an animal sanctuary an hour away. But Mo was basically their son, and the two would often make the drive to go see him. And on Mo's 39th birthday, the two showed up with a cake, which they fed him through a fence, and Mo seemed like he was genuinely having a good time. You know who wasn't? The 2 male chimps that were watching them. So here's the thing about chimps. In the hierarchy, lower ranking males have to surrender food to higher ranks. It's the rule. It's why people in South Africa have a baboon problem, since constantly being fed by people has made them see all humans as low ranks. Also, chimpanzees are capable of feeling every human emotion. That includes jealousy, greed, and straight up malice. So while these 2 chimps were watching this party happen without them, that was the worst possible time for them to realize their cages were unlocked. The 2 males charged, and one of them bit Davis's wife's thumb clean off. To protect his wife, 6'2" former running back Davis put himself between his wife and the 2 raging chimps. What happened next was one of the most brutal animal maulings I've ever read about. In 7 grisly minutes, St. James lost an eye, lost all of his fingers, parts of his face, parts of his foot, and even his... Yet children were no longer an option after that day. Davis was rushed to an emergency room, but the first 2 places actually turned them away since Davis looked like he was a lost cause. One person even said they were better off just taking him to the coroner's office. Eventually, he was led into a trauma center where he underwent multiple surgeries and even spent months in a medically induced coma. He survived with his wife by his side, but his life changed the moment those 2 chimps got out. As for Mo, a little while after watching his father get horrifically maimed in front of him, he eventually escaped the sanctuary and was never found again. All of this because of a birthday cake. Moral of the video, no story that starts with pet chimp has a good ending. ever.
Yo, why'd he say it like that? He was like, then he chopped off it and like stopped for a second. I was like, no way. But yeah, nah, he's right though. I wanted a pet chimp at one point, and I was like, bro, do I really want a chimp? Like, you know how crazy chimps are? Not only are they crazy, they're mad expensive. So not only would I be spending a lot of money on a chimp, I'd also be at the possibility of getting absolutely shredded, because when chimps attack you, they don't just attack you to just put you out of your misery. Like, they want you to suffer before you go. So I feel for that guy.
If everything goes smoothly, I'm gonna watch a car fly over another car.
You can actually use it today, and you can cut your commute at least in half, if not more.
Jim Duchovny says his company Aleph Aeronautics was able to create something we've been dreaming about since the Jetsons. And while not quite ready for the road, Duchovny says the flying car is about to take off. NBC News was given exclusive access to see their concept model with our own eyes. Sure enough, we watched it soar through the air over another car and land. But for all the magic of this moment, we were heavily restricted, forced to shoot at least half a football field away, and we never actually saw the driver entering or exiting the vehicle.
We still have some IP, intellectual property, which we're trying to protect.
But practicality might be where the rubber meets the sky.
It's going to be slow, incremental approach, which is good for legal integration, which is good for consumer integration.
But he says, as demand grows, regulations will catch up with the tech.
Hey, I'm all for flying cars. Good idea. Amazing idea. Only problem is, do you really trust other people in a flying car? Like, we normally have road cars and people already mess that up. Imagine a flying car. Oh yeah. And the thing about flying is, like, if you crash, it's over. Like, there's no mistake. There's no hit a car then like, oh, my bad, my insurance will pay for it. It's crash dead.
So this library has been discovered in Tibet, and it was sealed up, and it has 10,000 books or ancient texts. 84,000 books telling 10,000 years of human history, supposedly. Now, only a little bit has actually been translated. I think it was like 5%. But this is insane. It was sealed inside a wall. Can you imagine opening up a wall and just seeing all these books in text? I don't know what language it's written in. I think it's like this was built, they determined in 1073. And it was sealed in a 60-meter long, 10-meter high wall in Tibet containing 84,000 secret books telling 10,000 years of human history, and only 5% has been translated. What? What do we not know? In 10,000 years, what do you think's in these texts?
I'm trying to figure out who would have wrote that, who wrote it and who was just like, yeah, this is exactly what happened in the last 10,000 years that we've been here. For all we know, that could be like some type of play that they used to do back in the day, you know what I'm saying? And they used to just write out the scripts and just store right there. I feel like us humans, we think we know so much when we really don't.
Imagine going to Mexico on vacation with your friends. The resort you're staying at slips something in your drink. You end up at the hospital where they began demanding extreme amounts of money for treatment. They won't let you leave, and you realize they were trying to steal your organs. Well, that was the unfortunate reality for these college students who went to Cancun for vacation, ordered water at a bar, and immediately slumped over. One of them was then rushed to a private hospital where she was so heavily sedated that she couldn't even open her eyes or even speak. They immediately knew something was up when the hospital demanded $10,000 for treatment, $25,000 for proper treatment, and $5,000 if they wanted to leave. At one point, the hospital even said they're gonna take her to another location for an MRI, which the family researched is a cover-up for trafficking and even trying to take her organs. And they couldn't even go to another hospital because the hospital they were at refused to send their medical records to anywhere else. And after 30 hours, they had to get a $30,000 private plane to medevac her to a hospital back in the States. Prayers to the poor people that went through this. Let me know what you guys think, and as always, I'll keep you guys updated.
Nah, that's crazy. He said $5,000 for treatment and $25,000 for proper treatment. What does that even mean, bro? They're like, listen, we'll treat you, but if you want the real treatment, you're gonna have to pay a little bit extra.
Here's some facts you probably didn't know. A licking machine is what made the discovery that it took 364 licks to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop. No smoking signs on airplanes only became mandatory after a fire on a flight from Brazil to Paris caused the deaths of everyone on board except one person due to smoke inhalation. Bob Ross's hair was naturally straight, but he got a perm to save money on haircuts while he was touring the United States penniless in his mobile home. He actually hated his curly hair, but he kept it because it became iconic. The British scientist who helped develop the breathalyzer was caught drunk driving. Children of South Naknek, Alaska are flown daily to attend school, riding the United States' only flying school bus. 85% of the world's canned pumpkin is processed in one plant in Morton, Illinois, aka the pumpkin capital of the world. Japan has one vending machine for every 30 people.
These are the most disturbing things found in new houses, part 1. Up first, this couple bought a new house when they suddenly discovered a secret hidden room underneath the staircase. This is absolutely disturbing, and I wonder what the previous owner did in this room. Next up, this man just bought a new house when he realized the past owner left their mirror. He then decided to take it off and discovered something truly disturbing behind it. The previous owner had a camera hidden behind it. I wonder if he was spying on people in his house when he lived there, or if he wants to spy on the new people who moved in. Either way, it's very disturbing. Finally, this man's friend bought a new house when he suddenly moved the carpet and found the exact spot where the previous owner died. This is very creepy, especially because that's a body stain.
Archaeologists have just discovered the first pharaoh's tomb in more than 100 years. Thutmose II is the last undiscovered king of Egypt's 18th dynasty. And now that they've astonishingly found his tomb, it's become the most significant archaeological discovery since 1922, which is when they found Tutankhamun's tomb. And although Thutmose's mummy was missing, they discovered artifacts with inscriptions of his name, and it also appears the tomb to be flooded. So now they believe that more of its contents, and his mummy of course, were moved to a new undiscovered crypt nearby. The director of the excavation said the possible existence of a second and most likely intact tomb of Thutmose II is now an astonishing possibility.
The 3 fastest animals in the world. Only 0.1% can name them all, can you? Number 3, the cheetah. Now this cat is the real deal when it comes to speed. It has this amazing ability to accelerate super fast, allowing it to reach these crazy speeds almost instantly. Just picture this. It can run as fast as 62 miles per hour or 100 kilometers per hour, making it one of the fastest animals on land. Now imagine, you're running as fast as a car on a highway. Number 2. Next up, we've got the black marlin. This fish is known for its crazy speed underwater. It can reach up to about 80.78 miles per hour or 130 kilometers per hour. It's pretty much like an underwater missile. But before we move on to the top spot, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and favorite this video. Number 1. And now, in the top spot, we have the peregrine falcon. This bird's got razor-sharp wings and a hunting method that will literally take your breath away. It can hit speeds over 198.84 miles per hour or 320 kilometers per hour when it's diving down to catch its prey. It's the fastest predator in the animal kingdom, the king of the skies. It's as if Superman himself turned into a bird. Now imagine, you're moving as fast as these creatures, sprinting at a pace that makes your head spin, or swimming through the ocean's depths with the grace of a ballet dancer. What would you do with speed like that? Let me know in the comments.
Probably nothing, honestly. What could I really do? Maybe I could have run on a highway for like 2 seconds. The thing about cheetahs is like they can run really quickly, but they can't run really quickly for really long. It's kind of like a full 100-meter sprint, and then you just have to take like a little break because you don't want to overheat and die. You know what I'm saying? If you're at this part of the video, remember to like. Let's try to get to like 10,000 likes. I know it's big, but like, why not, right? Like, if everyone, like, you know what I'm saying? If everyone sees it, like, and you like it, we possibly could get to 10,000 likes.
These are some of the largest sinkholes in the world. First is the Morning Glory spillway. This sinkhole didn't actually form naturally, but it was created by engineers for a special purpose. To ensure that the dam wouldn't overflow during rainfall, they created this sinkhole to stop flooding. It's a 200-foot pit, meaning anyone who falls in has no chance of getting out. Next is the Great Blue Hole, which is located in Belize. As beautiful as this hole looks from above, it's actually incredibly dangerous and 407 feet deep. Many incredibly dangerous shark species and several dead bodies have been discovered inside. Finally, the Guatemala sinkhole. In 2010, a giant hole formed in the middle of the city, which engulfed a 3-story factory building and 5 people. Now, there are 3 major reasons why this sinkhole appeared: flooding in Guatemala, the eruption of a volcano 25 miles away from the city, and the presence of limestone under the Earth's crust. The sinkhole was 300 feet deep, but surprisingly only resulted in the death of 1 person.
People who survived unsurvivable things. Endumiso Mona. This man fought with a leopard and killed it with his own bare hands. Rommel Broom. He survived 18 lethal injections. Tsutomu Yamaguchi. He survived 2 atomic bombs. Anatoly Bagorsky stuck his head in a particle accelerator. Jacob Miller. He got shot between the eyes and survived. Dick Williams survived the Titanic. Julianne Kopke. She survived a plane crash. Aaron Ralston survived after 5 days of being trapped in a canyon. Vesna Valovic. She survived a 33,000-foot fall when her plane exploded.
That dude that survived that leopard attack, he's a real G. Real G. The dude that got shot right here and he survived too. Real G. You know how he did that, by the way? So I'm pretty sure we y'all might actually know, but like if your brain has 2 hemispheres, so the bullet perfectly went exactly like through, like, you know what I'm saying? Like it went like, you know what I'm saying? Like it didn't really hit the left side of the brain or the right side of the brain, it just went perfectly through. Yo, God love that guy, because that's lucky.
This was the real life Fortnite. In the 1960s, a man named Hugh Jazz was a famous billionaire who owned a private island. He would hire men to take over 100 people from their homes at night while they were sleeping. And when they all woke up, he would make them compete in a game. But the contestants didn't know what they were in for. Before I tell you the rest of the story, I advise you to check if your phone is being spied on by clicking here, then on here, and if you see this app, delete it immediately. He would pile them up in a huge air balloon, and they were forced to jump out with parachutes and land on the island. There he would force them to unalive each other till the last person was standing. The winner received a lifetime supply of riches and would have to sign an NDA saying they would never speak of this again. People who refused to play were permanently eliminated by Hugh Jazz. He would stay in an underground bunker with the world's richest elites watching this on a monitor screen like it was an everyday sport. They would laugh and make bets on who would win or who would lose first. He did this survival challenge around 50 times before one contestant managed to make a raft and escape the island. 15 days later, when the contestant finally got to land, he told authorities about the famous Hugh Jazz. Eventually, authorities came to the island and found him in a bunker with 10 other famous and rich individuals. They were all arrested for their crimes, and all the survivors on the island were rescued. But eventually, Hugh Jazz escaped and was broken out of prison, never to be seen again.
This is one of the scariest urban legends I've ever heard, and it ended up being true. So there's this stretch of road in Turkey along the D100, and the urban legend says that if your car breaks down on the side of this road, do not get out of the car. Because according to the locals, one night, a few people got into an accident, and when they got out of their cars, they all melted on the road. Well, this is coming from an episode I just did on urban legends that ended up being true, but it turns out there is a reason that they all spread this legend around. In 1965, a passenger bus was traveling down this road when it crashed into a big truck carrying a bunch of water, and it caused water to spill out all over the road. The passengers got out of the bus because they were okay, but when their feet touched the pavement, their shoes started to melt, and it felt like their feet were on fire. And that's because the truck was not carrying water, it was carrying nitric acid, an acid that dissolves skin on contact. As they were on the ground crawling away from the accident, the acid was melting the skin off of their bones. And the worst part in all of this is that a group of 12 people saw a bunch of water that had collected in a drainage ditch and thought they should jump into it to protect themselves. But really, they jumped into a pool of undiluted acid and dissolved within moments. If you want to hear more urban legends and the even scarier stories they're based on, check out this episode of the Heart Starts Pounding podcast, and this is part of a whole series that we do.
This is a case that not only makes me feel sick to my stomach, but also completely enraged simultaneously. And if you're a sensitive viewer, this one isn't for you. Meet Hugo Ferreira. Many of you will not know his name or his case, and honestly, I'm not surprised. I myself only became aware of his disgusting crime today. And as for media house coverage on the case, well, it's at a bare minimal. Hugo is a 37-year-old man from Valfordine in Carltonville, and he has been convicted of a heinous crime. On the 8th of June 2023, after an argument with the mother of his newborn daughter, he took the fully clothed infant and left the back room accommodation they shared in the old railway houses of Valfordine. In the short space of time that he was gone, he was brutally SAing his 8-day-old daughter. Yeah, I'll give that information a second to sink in. Later that day, he returned back with the injured infant, clothing missing. His girlfriend at the time, the mother of the child, then took the baby to the woman on the main house of the property. Shortly after, an ambulance was called along with the police. Hugo was arrested, and the infant would later succumb to her injuries on June 9th in Carltonville Hospital. Last year, he was sent to Sterkfontein Psychiatric Hospital for an evaluation. There, he was ultimately found to be fit to stand trial. He has been in custody in Polokwane since June of 2023, but only on the 7th of February 2025 did he finally plead guilty to the charges against him, namely murder and rape. The case has been postponed to the 25th of February for the preparation of a pre-sentence report. This document basically showcases the background of an individual in question to allow the court to ultimately decide on an appropriate sentence. As much as this case disturbs me, you know the drill. Keep your eyes on my feed and I'll be sure to keep you in the loop. Until the next one, Bella out.
I want to talk about how Count Orlok doesn't really look like a classic vampire, because there's a lot of historical context to these looks. So first off, in the recent Nosferatu, the director had no interest in just recreating the Count Orlok look. Instead, he went back to old vampire folklore from New England, back when people thought vampires were just regular dead people that could possess people from the grave. So he wanted Count Orlok to look like a real Romanian nobleman that had died. And that's different from the original Count Orlok, who literally was supposed to look like a rat. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you, it's not really more complicated than that. The original came out in 1922 and is really just a metaphor for the Spanish flu. The Spanish flu killed 50 million people between 1918 and 1920 and was brought back on warships from people returning home after World War I. And they play on the fear of that plague in both movies. There's lots of ships and lots and lots and lots of rats. Rats, of course, have become a symbol of the plague because it's believed that they transported the bubonic plague around. But what's the most interesting in this, I think, is that the original Nosferatu came out 4 years after the Spanish flu started, and our Nosferatu came out 4 years after COVID.
Extinct animals caught on camera. Pterodactyl. Look carefully.
Three normal things in one country but shocking to the rest of the world. Part 12. Number 3. In Germany, the deposit system for bottles and cans actively encourages recycling. When you buy a drink, you pay a small additional sum, called Pfand, which is refunded when you return the empty bottle or can to a collection point. This initiative, aimed at promoting recycling and reducing waste, allows consumers to earn a bit of money in return. Number 2. In Japan, the tradition of Valentine's Day is somewhat different from many other countries. On February 14th, it is usually the women who give chocolates to men, whether it's romantic love, work colleagues, or friends. Men are not supposed to give gifts on Valentine's Day. However, they have their turn a month later, on March 14th, during White Day, where they are expected to give a gift in return to those who gave them chocolates. Number 1. Public toilets in America are often surprising to foreigners due to the lack of privacy they offer. Stalls are designed with large gaps between the doors and frames, allowing a partial view inside. Additionally, the doors are usually shorter, sometimes exposing users' legs. While this design is typical in the US, it can shock those who are used to complete privacy in public toilets.
Man, I'm gonna have to go to Japan, bro. Too many times here in America, girls be expecting too much, bro. It's like, yeah, I like you, but like, do I like you that much? Nah, I'm not gonna lie, Gen Z nowadays, this is what we expect. At least this is what the females expect. Valentine's Day come around. Flowers, a must. Hotel room, everything decorated. Chocolate, of course. You know what I'm saying? Like the flowers, chocolate, basic. Hotel room, okay, now you're asking for a little bit too much. Hotel room decorated to the max. Now you're asking for the most. Like, you gotta be wifey status for that one. Gifts. Honestly, girls nowadays expect you to, like, at least for Gen Z women, nowadays they expect you to pay, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta be putting up some money to impress these girls, unless they on to the next. So, I don't know, I need to go to Japan. I need a girl to give me some chocolates, dude.
First games you should never play. Part 12, Bloody Mary. To play this game, you'll need an indoor setting. This place needs to be able to block any and all light from coming into it. Then, gather your supplies. You will need a candle, some sort of lighter, and a mirror. Then, wait until nightfall. Once that hits, enter your room alone. Set up the mirror if you need to. Light the candle and then place it in front of the mirror. Now, start repeating the name Bloody Mary. With each repetition, continue to add volume to your voice. Do this until you hit 13 repetitions. Once you get to number 13, make sure you're not in arm's reach of the mirror. She might scream at you, but you can handle that, you'll be fine. But if she's able to grab you from the mirror, you're probably not okay. If you survive this experience, immediately extinguish the candle. Turn on the lights and leave the room. Once you're fully completed, make sure you never use this mirror again.
Hey man, foxes are cute. And if you want them to stay that way, do not watch this video. Fun fact, the wild carnivore with the most real estate on Earth is the red fox. If you live anywhere that isn't a penguin playground, chances are there's a fox in your area, and there's two reasons. Number one, they can adapt to basically everything. And two, they'll eat literally anything. Anything. Okay, story time. My favorite fox is the Arctic fox. They're like the Bear Grylls of canines. They'll eat anything, even if it means shadowing a polar bear to pick its leftovers, even if it means eating literal leftovers. Forbidden fertilizer. Now the problem is the polar bear playbook revolves around sea ice to hunt. Less sea ice means less polar prey, means less leftover for the ice puppy. Last chance to scroll, wouldn't blame you. So there was this documentary where this Arctic fox couldn't find any food, and eventually her HP hit 0 and she became a was. Yeah, she was way past tense, and that's when another Arctic fox found her. Remember, I said anything. So fox number 2 started eating expired fox number 1. Except that got the attention of fox number 3, and with calories hard to come by, you wasn't going. They started to squabble, and like a sick joke, that attracted even more famished foxes. So I'm over here watching 7 or 8 aggressive Q-tips fighting over the canine corpse of their own kind. It gets worse, because there's something I didn't tell you. Foxes live everywhere, and in some places red foxes overlap with Arctic foxes. Except the reds are much, much bigger. So eventually came a BBC, big black canine melanistic red fox that ran through the Arctics like Philly through Mahomes' O-line. So that's how I watched a giant black fox eating an Arctic fox while the other Arctics could only watch in starving jealousy. Hey, sometimes that's how nature goes. The more you know.
This girl killed her mum so that she wouldn't find out she got kicked out of school. On the 3rd of March 2020, police were called to do a welfare check at a property in Ohio. Brenda Powell lived in the house, the 50-year-old mother of Sydney Powell. Brenda had actually been on the phone with Sydney's former school. This was the University of Mount Union. Now, during the telephone call, a staff member heard repeated thuds and screaming, so authorities were alerted. Inside, they found Brenda Powell in a serious condition. She was rushed to hospital but died from her injuries. Brenda had been unaware that her 19-year-old daughter had been kicked out of the school. During her telephone conversation, Brenda was struck in the head and then stabbed nearly 30 times by Sydney. However, when police investigated the murder, Sydney tried to claim that there had been a break-in. She told them that there had been a noise and her mum had instructed her to run away. She said she heard screaming, and when she ran back in, her mum was on the floor. Investigators saw through her lies and she eventually changed her story. At her trial, she pled not guilty by reason of insanity. Her defense argued that Sydney was suffering from undiagnosed schizophrenia. They stated that she killed while experiencing a psychotic episode. However, it is rare for people with schizophrenia to act violently. It was concluded that Sydney had been exaggerating her symptoms. She's recently been found guilty and is awaiting sentencing.
Here are some crazy things happening in the world right now. An unidentified man stole 3 amputated legs from a Bucharest hospital. 1 is still missing. An elementary school student went permanently blind after eating only a diet of chicken nuggets. Japanese elderly women are choosing to live in Japan's largest prison for women because they feel lonely and are struggling, and it has good benefits. The Walgreens CEO announced that their anti-theft program has backfired because, quote, when you lock things up, you also don't sell as much of them. Police charged a woman with a definitely not drugs tote bag with trafficking meth. A man who mistakenly threw away his hard drive with Bitcoin on it in 2013 that's now worth $750 million is now trying to work with investors to buy the landfill that the trash went to because a court case dismissed his ability to have access to it. He says he can't work a 9-to-5 job and think about this every day and would rather just figure this out and dig through trash every day of his life if he has to.
I bet that dude that went blind from eating chicken nuggets every day, he was probably thinking like, oh yeah, this is the right amount of protein. Wait, what type of chicken nuggets was it though? Because now I'm curious, because I'm like, if this dude went blind from eating some McDonald's chicken nuggets, I naturally already don't eat McDonald's chicken nuggets, but I'm never eating McDonald's chicken nuggets ever again.
Breaking news, y'all. The Menendez brothers were attacked in prison, and I'm not sure what extent, but they said that they were brutally attacked in prison today. So, yeah, this news just came out after they received the information that their case is not going to be going back to trial. So that means that they're not going to get the chance to plead their case in front of the judge and possibly get resentenced or released early. This was in talks basically late last year, and yeah, so basically right after this, today, they get attacked in prison. Now, they said it was a very brutal attack, and they are in critical condition. Y'all, I don't know exactly what happened or what went down or who had it against them to the point where they got attacked in prison, but this is crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like at the end of the day, it's weird that the judge won't even go take this back to trial, because they said the judge said that the reason why they won't take this to trial is because they feel like it is a bunch of lies and it can make way for more lies, and it's all fabricated. But it was proven that the father actually did SA them, so I don't understand how this is lies.
Shocking tech facts you won't believe. Facebook's algorithms can predict and detect breakups before they happen. The world's most powerful supercomputer is faster than 6 million PS5s combined. There's more computers than humans on Earth. Every minute, 500 plus hours of video are uploaded to YouTube. 4K videos can chew through your storage fast. That's why we all need a way to compress and convert files without losing quality.
Clips you need to see before you die. Part 8. Crocodiles in Indonesia have learned to fake drowning to lure humans into the water. To survive in the jungle, it's crucial to stay alert every moment. He was 100% focused. Follow for more.
We talked about the Jaws ride animatronic many times, but we're going to talk about it again because I found some new pictures and I want to traumatize y'all as much as I'm traumatized. Every day I'm depressed, I just remind myself, hey, at least I'm not in the water with a Jaws ride animatronic, and I feel all better. So the one in Japan is about 4 times as big as the one in America. Let me just show you the comparison on this. Like, look how big that is in comparison to the people. Look how massive that huge, gigantic animatronic is in that water. Okay, another one for scale. This thing is massive. And that's the one we got in America. Like, bro's goofy looking. Granted, this was only like one of the versions, but like all of the animatronics that were in America were so much smaller than the ones in Japan. Like this, oh God. This with that wire, sickening, and my worst nightmare. Here is a lovely picture that made me almost have a panic attack about 5 minutes ago, of all of these wires, hydraulics, and everything that is typically under the water. And then there goes Bruce's head up at the top, the animatronic that pops, this part pops it out of the water. I hate everything about this. And tomorrow we're going to talk about the Jaws movie, and there's even more terrifying pictures from the Jaws movies filming them. This is gross. Watch this video and let me know how you're feeling, and would you be able to go on the Jaws ride? Because I think they only still have it in Japan. I rode it when it was in Los Angeles in 2009, and it traumatized me, but I could not do the one in Japan. Watch this.
I don't know if it's just me, but animatronics do not really traumatize me that much. I'm just looking at it like, dude, I'd rather an animatronic any day of the week than the real thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, dude, I can handle all these robot parts and possibly disconnect it compared to like a rail shark that I'm gonna have to like probably stab in the eye or something. And then even then it's still gonna go crazy. So like, It's not that big of a deal in my opinion.
This was one of the biggest medical disasters in history. In the late 1950s, a new pharmaceutical was being introduced called thalidomide, and it was a miracle cure for morning sickness for pregnant women. Doctors and patients loved it. It was marketed as being safe, and it really seemed like a medical miracle for a little while. But by 1961, thalidomide was pulled off of shelves worldwide. Why, you ask? Because thousands of babies were being born with severe malformations. Some babies were born with tiny arms and legs or missing limbs. Some were born blind, deaf, or with internal organ damage. And some babies didn't survive at all. It turns out the earlier the mother took it in her pregnancy, the more severe the damage was. People were obviously devastated, and this caused a lot of public panic, and a lot happened subsequently. But first, let's talk about how this happened. And it turns out it comes down to one oversight. And that was that thalidomide was never tested on pregnant animals. At the time, drug testing wasn't nearly as regulated as it was today. And there just wasn't a regulation for companies to test how a medicine is affecting a developing embryo. It was just kind of assumed to be safe. So when thalidomide finally was tested on pregnant animals, the results were the same. The animals were giving birth to babies with same malformations. This tragedy transformed many people's lives, and it also transformed the way medicine is developed. The field of toxicology was born because of this tragedy. The world started to demand rigorous testing of medicine before it could reach human patients. Most of the people affected were in the UK. It never made it to the United States, and it's actually all thanks to the efforts of this woman. This is Frances Oldham Kelsey, the official in charge of the FDA review of the medicine thalidomide. And she refused to approve the drug until she saw evidence that it wasn't harmful to pregnant women, which ultimately it was. So thanks to this woman's due diligence, she saved countless lives, and she actually received an award from President Kennedy. There's also a corporate greed component to this story, because initially the victims received no compensation from the manufacturers of thalidomide. It took years of legal battles and public outrage to finally make things right. And in 1973, a settlement was reached and the Thalidomide Trust was established to support survivors. If we're to learn anything from the thalidomide tragedy, it's that we have to learn from history so that we don't make the same mistakes again, and that this wasn't just a failure of science, it was a failure of responsibility.
And just like that, y'all, it's not looking too good for Diddy. His lawyer just straight up quit on him. This man's lawyer just said, under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel for Sean Diddy Combs. Like, what? Do y'all know what this mean? Do y'all really know what this mean? He just made it worse for Diddy. He made him seem like he was hella guilty. Your man's just abruptly quit on Diddy at the wrong time. I'm telling y'all, it got something to do with Cash Patel. It really do. He seen that man become FBI director and he said, yeah, I'm not messing with that man. So he called up Diddy on the phone and was like, yo, what's up? Diddy was like, what's the word, my boy? He said, yeah, I'm sorry to do you like this. He said, do me like what? He said, yeah, I gotta quit. He said, quit? He said, yeah, man. He said, you know how it is, right? He said, no, I don't. I'm in jail. His lawyer was like, man, Cash Patel in town now. You know what that mean, right? Then he was like, Cash Patel? He said, Cash Patel. He said, fuck! His lawyer hung up the phone. All jokes aside, though, that's messed up, though. He quit on this man, y'all. Y'all know what I'm starting to think? Since all these documents is about to be open, is there a chance he go back into this Biggie shit? Y'all remember the rabbit hole goes deeper. We probably about to see a big ass plot twist. Breaking news, they found out the real reason Biggie was...
Oh yeah, that's 100% a bad look for Diddy. Like, people already think he's guilty, you know what I'm saying? I'm not really too sure the real reason. Like, what he was saying right there wasn't the real reason. But yeah, I don't think Diddy is gonna survive this one, guys.
The US may pull its military support from Europe, causing EU leaders to desperately devise this plan to try and entice Trump to stay. Europe became alarmed when they realized that the Trump administration is serious about cutting its costly support of the EU after the US Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth considered withdrawing thousands of troops from American bases in Europe, and Elon Musk openly questioned if the United States should leave NATO altogether. This caused EU countries to face the harsh reality that in order to defend themselves without US support, they will need to spend more than $3 trillion over the next 10 years and train up an additional 300,000 troops just to meet the defense benefits that the US currently provides. Some EU countries now believe that it'll be far easier to just negotiate a deal with Trump that includes offering America better investment opportunities in Europe, thereby giving Trump a vested interest in protecting the continent, along with a fair trade agreement to correct the trade imbalance that currently exists between US and Europe.
This has been like a big thing that's going on lately, and recently Trump and Zelensky had an argument in the White House. But like, why does it feel like every single European nation just depends on America? And now the US is kind of just like, we don't really want y'all to depend on us, and everyone's just freaking out. It's actually crazy.
He was pulled into a drain pipe after being caught in a flood. A nearby officer rushed over to help, but he was quickly dragged in too. The rushing water forced them both through the 100-foot-long pipe, and they were underwater for nearly 30 seconds as the pipe traveled beneath a 4-lane highway. They finally came out on the other side, gasping for air and lucky to be alive. Her head got jammed between the car door and the payment machine as she tried to leave the parking garage, and her dead body was found hours later. At first, her death was a mystery, but when they played back the security footage, they saw that she'd leaned out of the car to pick up her dropped credit card. As she did this, her foot accidentally hit the gas, and the car sped forward, slamming into the machine.
What the hell? That's a new fare unlocked.
The US and Ukraine are done as Trump kicked Zelensky out of the White House and the peace deal was ripped up. In front of the whole world, Zelensky and Trump had a fiery shouting match as negotiations broke down in front of our very eyes. Today was supposed to be the end of the Ukrainian war as the mineral peace deal was supposed to be signed live on TV. But when Trump accused Zelensky of starting World War III and being disrespectful, they had to take this to a private room, where Trump told Zelensky everything is off and the US and Ukraine are done. Reports say Ukrainian officials begged to resume the talks and to restart the deal, but Trump walked out of the Oval Office yelling, "Get them out of here." Also at the same time, US and Russian officials met at Turkey to discuss their own peace deal. Trump then posted a Truth Social, Zelensky is not ready for peace, saying he disrespected the United States in the Oval Office, and he can come back when he is ready for peace. Vance also got into these fiery remarks, accusing Zelensky of forcing men into battle. This was historical, and we just witnessed the messy breakup of the United States and Ukraine.
I mean, I don't know about Zelensky starting World War III because Russia invaded Ukraine, but I mean, at this point, you know what I'm saying? I don't even know what's going on anymore. Like, everything is like, we're real life witnessing a change and everything. We're no longer, like, we're trying to leave the World Health Organization. We're trying to leave NATO. We're actually becoming allies with Russia, which is like unheard of for like the last, you know what I'm saying, probably like 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. Probably even longer than that. Ukraine war. Apparently Ukraine doesn't want to end the war that they should end. I don't know. Crazy times we're living in, man. Like, I remember some dude yesterday, I was at the car dealership. He was like, "Do you think we're living in end times?" I'm just like, nah, not really. But like, when you hear stuff like that, you're like, maybe we are.
Your entire life is controlled by one instinct, and you don't even realize it. You think survival is just about food, water, and shelter? Wrong. Your brain is wired for social survival just as much as physical. That's why rejection hurts like physical pain. That's why embarrassment feels like death. This is day one of decoding human nature. In ancient times, being outcast meant you wouldn't survive. And guess what? That instinct is still running your life today. It's why you fear public speaking. It's why you hesitate to approach strangers. It's why you care what people think, even when you know you shouldn't. But you're not in a tribe anymore. You won't die from rejection. The moment you realize this, you break free. The moment you stop chasing approval, you start living.
So Zelensky is just a person who is a puppet. He is not a real leader in that region, and he has taken billions from American taxpayers. And watching him disrespect us by showing up, he has done Vanity Fair, he has done Vogue twice, he has done the cover of Forbes, he was on the Lex Friedman podcast, okay? And every time he comes to the White House, he can't even be bothered to put on a suit. So you can't afford groceries, you can't afford to fill up your tank, and he doesn't care. He's just like, oh, well, you know what? I'm just gonna dress in my sweatpants, my military fatigues, because he's a propagandist. He's supposed to be selling to you like he's like on the front lines. He thinks he's in a movie. And that's because before becoming the president, he was literally just an actor. He was like a Netflix actor, so to speak, right? He was on a very popular television show in Ukraine where he played, I'm not even kidding, I would talk about The Matrix. He played an actor that went on to become president. And then he was an actor who went on to become president. You can't even believe these things. It's true, okay? And so that's his goal. He's an actor. He's supposed to wear outfits. He's with tons of A-list celebrities. You're in a war and thousands of men are dying and you're making time to do the cover of Vogue twice? Vanity Fair? Guys, you have to realize how unbelievably ridiculous and wrong that is. And so it has been nice. So as soon as this guy gets out of the car, like he's just a buddy to Trump and he's just going there to pick up some more money. I mean, he actually got angry when someone suggested that we cut off these welfare checks to Ukraine. He's like, no, you pay for me. You pay for me and do whatever I want. This is the first time where he went to the White House and Trump looked down at him and was like, what are you wearing? I'm gonna show you. Like he makes a little smart comment like, oh, okay, show some respect. Take a listen.
Pretty close. Pretty shut. He's all dressed up today.
That's good enough. So Zelensky has always, to me, been giving Veruca Salt, don't care how I want it now, you know? Don't care how I want you guys to get back to work and you're gonna keep funding my war, which even AI will tell you they never had a means of winning. Okay, this was just a never-ending money laundering opportunity, get money out of the taxpayers' dollars, and then they go, oh, we lost it. Pentagon doesn't know where all of the billions of dollars went. That's just what keeps happening all the time. And I have been calling this out since 2022, okay? Before it was cool or popular to recognize that we were getting got, like we were just getting got in the Ukrainian laundromat over there. Can't be bothered to wear, there's no reason he can't put on a suit, other than the fact that he's trying to sell to the public that he is on the front lines. It's a movie role for him, and that drives me insane. So you have to imagine how absolutely giddy I was when I saw this clip circulating from C-SPAN of J.D. Vance, Trump, and Zelensky in the Oval Office, because Trump is looking at him like, you're like a bratty kid. You don't even have the respect. Even you knew during Christmas time, when you were going, or it was your birthday, and you were going to see your grandparents, you knew they were going to write a check and they were going to slip $100 or $20 in there. You knew to come correct, right? You knew to have some respect because your grandparents are going to give you a little bit of money and you're going to act surprised that there's money in there. You're going to say thank you. That's not him. That's not Zelensky. He's Veruca Salt. Don't care how. I want it now. I want the whole world. I want to wear them like braids in my hair and I don't want to share them. Okay? That is Zelensky. And so today, for the first time in 4 years, in my view, he got the treatment that he deserves from the American people. Not even the American people, the American representatives, J.D. Vance and President Donald Trump. Zelensky needs a spanking. He needs an old-fashioned spanking. Go outside, get the switch. Back when they used to do it in the day before we were coddling toddlers. That is toddler behavior. Just wear a suit. You're going to ask for money. Wear a suit. Have some respect. Do not litigate matters in front. Could you just imagine the audacity of your child, like speaking to, he is a welfare child. He is ghetto, okay? People, I used to say ghetto, and the media would always lie about that. Like, oh, Candace calls black people ghetto. There are people all around the world who act ghetto, and he is a welfare child, okay? Make no mistake. I don't care where he's getting his military fatigues, which he apparently has never-ending supply of. Him coming out with his hand out and acting like a bratty child should be treated in that manner, okay? That's how toddlers, you need to put them in their place and remind them, okay? Adults are speaking. You don't use that tone with me. So I say to my son, you don't use that tone with me. You don't speak to adults like that. Why? Because you're a child and it's inappropriate. And that's how I felt watching him. I'm like, who are you, okay? And he's lucky it wasn't me in there. He's lucky it wasn't me in there, because I promise you, if I was in there and he was talking to me like that for taking money from the mouths of my family's out there, they can't put gas in their tank, and you're over here coming here in your sweatpants. it would have been over. It would have been over. This is why I just do this from home, because I can't be out there dealing with men acting like that little man child that he is.
I am dead. Yo, Candace Owen for president 2030, whatever the hell the next election date is after 2028. I don't really got much to say. I feel like, in my opinion, they got way bigger problems than wearing a suit to the White House. But if she's really saying that he's like an actor and he's trying to act and persuade people like, oh, he's on the front lines for real, then yeah, I get that. But me personally, I'm like, shorty, you know what I'm saying? I got bigger problems than a suit. You know, like, I'm getting invaded. My people are getting bombed. You know what I'm saying?
Countries with the rudest people, according to Tourist. Well, before we talk about the rudest countries, the 5 countries that are ranked the friendliest are Portugal, Netherlands, New Zealand, Spain, and at number 1 is Canada. So if you live in any of those countries, good job. However, at number 5 for the rudest country is none other than China. But guys, us Americans aren't too far off, because we were ranked as the 6th rudest country. Next, at number 4, travelers say Germany is one of the rudest countries, but Germans claim it's just them being straightforward. Now at number 3 is the UK, because tourists say they're a bit passive-aggressive and noisy. However, at number 2 is Russia, because visitors say they avoid small talk and generally don't smile much. And finally, at number 1 is France. And France is literally ranked number 1 on almost every single list on the internet.
Here's some crazy history you were not taught in school. Benjamin Franklin was not trusted to write the Declaration of Independence because they thought he'd sneak in some jokes. A 15-year-old Andrew Jackson told a British officer to shine his own shoes. Abraham Lincoln founded the Secret Service hours before he was assassinated. The photographer who snapped Einstein's office after his death bribed his way in with a bottle of scotch. A 12-year-old boy lied about his age to fight in World War I and saw combat at 13 years old before his mom dragged him home. Britain spent 40% of its national budget to free slaves in 1833. The loan wasn't paid off until 2015. Greek statues weren't white. They were once painted in bright colors, but the pigment faded over time. Archaeologists dug up 35 perfectly preserved bottles of cherries and berries from the 1700s at George Washington's estate. Chef Boyardee was drafted in World War II. His factory ran 24/7, making army rations.
This is why you should never explore abandoned buildings. In 2013, 3 boys named Paul, Tim, and Max all lived in Louisiana. There were tons of abandoned houses in their neighborhood left over from Hurricane Katrina, and the boys all loved to explore them. One day, Paul asked his 2 friends to explore an abandoned hospital a few miles out of town. They agreed, and the 3 boys set off. They explored every floor of the hospital except for the basement. But upon walking down to the basement, they discovered that it was flooded with over 4 feet of water. They walked down the stairs and shined their lights on the murky water. It took them to the middle of a hallway, but they couldn't see down either side. Paul thought it would be a good idea to wade down the flooded hallway. His friends stayed back when all of a sudden there was a huge splash. Paul shined his flashlight down the basement and saw a huge creature swimming towards him. His friends began to scream at him, and Paul ran back to the staircase. The 3 boys escaped the hospital and went home to never return. They believe they heard an alligator, but will never be sure.
I'm dead. It's ironic that a video like that comes in a video like this when I was just talking about how I just explored like a haunted asylum. And yes, we did go to the basement.
The Menendez Brothers. The trial ended with 2 deadlocked juries, causing the boys to be retried, but during the second trial, the judge didn't allow the boys to use the sexual abuse as a defense. Both brothers were convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder, with both of them receiving life sentences and no possibility of parole. They then didn't see one another for 22 years. Until 2018, they were housed in the same unit, and when they met, they embraced and burst into tears. The child psychologist that works with the brothers claims that the boys are innocent and their father was in fact a monster. A cousin of the boys also states that he remembers Lyle telling him during his childhood that his father was doing things to him that no parent should ever do. Others believe, however, that the boys are simply using any excuse they can, given that they are actually held accountable for their crimes. But ultimately, it's up to you to decide the innocence of
scary facts you wish you never knew. On an American $1 bill, there's an owl in the upper left-hand corner of the 1 encased in the shield, and a spider hidden in the front upper right-hand corner. When someone tells you that they have a question for you, All the bad things you did recently run through your mind. People who don't dream usually have a personality disorder. Typing 444 will turn on TikTok's dark mode. When you suddenly wake up at night, it means someone is watching you. If you out a drop of liquor on a scorpion, it will go mad instantly. Coconuts kill about 150 people each year. Leave a note on a table before you leave the house. If you come back and it's gone, leave the house immediately and call the police. If someone misses you, they are 80% more likely to appear in your dreams. If a person sleeps a lot, they are sad. Someone invented Wi-Fi without having Wi-Fi. How is that possible?
You guys heard of the man who murdered his mother and threw her body in a dumpster? On June 3rd, 2022 at 6:50 a.m., police found the dismembered body of 62-year-old Tomoko Hoitzlin in a dumpster outside of her apartment complex in Camarillo, California. Police went to the apartment complex after receiving a call about suspicious circumstances, and that's when they found the body of Tomoko. After obtaining a search warrant, Tomoko's son, 25-year-old David, barricaded himself in the apartment that he lived in with his mother, but police were able to get in and arrest him for her murder. Investigators found evidence linking him to the murder, but at this point, we don't really know what that evidence is. And the county medical examiner officers confirmed that Tomoko was strangled to death, but the motive is still not clear. David is being held on a $3 million bond, and if he's convicted, he faces 25 years to life in prison.
Traditional wedding clothes in different countries. United Kingdom, Scotland, Wales, the Netherlands, Germany, Russia, Japan, China, Mexico, Korea,
Mysterious videos that can't be explained. This security cam footage from a library taken at 5:30 in the morning shows something kinda confusing. Out of nowhere, a book from the shelf seems to just fall over on its own and lands perfectly on its side. The library is closed and nobody's inside of it. But somehow one book was perfectly pulled out from the shelf and landed so that it balanced on the side of its pages. It would be next to impossible to pull out one book from the shelf without disturbing the others. And when the librarians tried to balance the same book on its side, they couldn't do it. What do you guys think happened to this book? Comment below. Next we have this dude from Florida who wanted to film himself practicing his golf swings to try and get better. But as he picks up the camera to stop the video, he catches a lamp swinging somehow by itself over his dining room table. The man freaks out and it's pretty apparent that he's not doing this. He then pans to the side and catches his cupboards opening and closing. Is this proof of ghosts?
Dirty animal facts that biology class definitely didn't teach you. Part 1. Diego, the unstoppable sex tortoise who is 100 years old, lives on the Galapagos archipelago and has fathered over 800 tortoises. When a male anglerfish meets a female, he fuses with her body, donating his brain, heart, and eyes, pretty much becoming a pair of testicles dangling from her body. Hey darling. Nice testes. In 1912, biologists had to cover up the first published studies of penguins after observing them being the literal worst. Male on male penguin action, male on dead penguin action, male on unwilling female penguin action. Oh, and action in exchange for pebbles. If Finding Nemo was scientifically accurate, Marlin would have just changed into a female clownfish and mated with Nemo after his mother's death. Nemo! Oh, and fish don't talk, but more importantly, the whole changing into
This may be one of the scariest urban legends I've ever heard that actually turned out to be true. So during the 1970s, there was a terrifying funhouse in Long Beach, California called the Laugh in the Dark. And this urban legend began circulating that all the mannequins inside were fake except for one. Something about this mannequin just seemed wrong. All the others looked fake, but this one in particular, they say it looked a little too human. A bunch of kids even said the area around the mannequin had a terrible smell. This next part is where I pooped my pants. So a few years go by, and then one day a TV crew comes to use Laugh in the Dark as one of their filming locations. The director is trying to line up the perfect shot, but he just doesn't like the way this one mannequin looked on camera. So he asks one of the crew members to move it out of the way. So the crew member goes over, starts moving the mannequin when the arm completely falls off. Inside the mannequin's arm is human bone. The kids were right all along. The mannequin was a mummified corpse.
This man claims he found a portal to another dimension in Washington. Part 2. Sorry for the wait. The next day, the dog was found outside the hole, alive. Amazed by what happened, Mel went onto a radio talk show to talk about the strange hole. Within 24 hours, Mel claims the military seized his land where the hole was and told him to never talk about it again. Even in public satellite images, his land appeared to be covered. But here is the twist. People who investigated his story found no public records of anyone named Mel Waters. And a geologist named Jack Powell came forward saying a hole that deep could not physically exist since it would collapse on itself from the pressure. He even said he knew where Mel's hole was and took a camera crew to it. According to him, Mel's hole was nothing more than an abandoned mine shaft that was less than 10,000 feet deep.
Disturbing history facts that school did not teach you. During medieval times, some women would shove live fish inside their bodies, if you know what I mean, and wait until the fish died inside them before cooking and serving it to their husbands. It was believed that this would increase their husband's love for them. Mother Teresa encouraged sick patients to suffer, but went straight to the hospital when she was ill. She is regarded by many as a saint for her dedication to helping the poor and sick in India. She believed suffering was a gift from God and encouraged her patients to accept it as a way to get closer to Jesus. However, when she herself fell ill with heart problems, she chose to get treated in modern hospitals. Charlie Chaplin met his future wife when she was 12 and he was 31. They first crossed paths on the set of the movie The Kid in 1920. 4 years later, due to Letta Gray's pregnancy, they got married when she was only 16 years old. Their turbulent union eventually resulted in one of the most expensive divorces of their time.
She fell in love with her daughter and married her. This is Stephanie from Oklahoma, and I wasn't even looking for this story. I was researching something else, and I came across this, and I was like, clicking that link. So Stephanie lost custody of her kids when they were younger, and their paternal grandmother took over. Later, she got back into her kids' life, and then she says her and her daughter just hit it off. And this was after she married her son in 2008 and then got it annulled in 2010. She said that wasn't a actual, with an S, relationship. She just married him to get him out of the military. Don't understand how this works, but that's what she said. Now this son right here says he tried that mess with her, but he wasn't going for it. He denied her advances. DHS got involved. She was 44 here and she was 26, so I don't understand how this worked with the DHS. I don't know if there was a child in the home or what, but DHS got involved and they were charged with incest. They are now divorced. Well, the marriage has been annulled. Oh, and the mother said she feel like she didn't do nothing wrong because her name wasn't on her daughter's birth certificate. Honey, it's in the blood.
Now, I know for a fact that I'm not the only one scared that sharks are going to be in my pool, right? Like, it's the most irrational fear ever, but I cannot go in a pool by myself or without, like, a bunch of different people in the pool at the same time because I'm scared of this happening, a freaking shark being in there. I don't know why. Like, I'm just so convinced that a trap door is going to open down there and a shark's going to swim out and it's going to eat me. I don't know why. Why? Am I the only one? Am I the only one? I can't be. Like, all of these photos are fake, by the way. They're all, like, AI or Photoshopped. This... no. Someone sent me this video and I just had to screenshot it because what? AI has gone too far. This is nightmare fuel. This is just, I hate it. I know that it's fake. I know that it's AI, but that doesn't stop me from having nightmares about it. Like, this AI girly is more brave than I'll ever be because
what? Watch this photoshopped or AI video that I'm about to show, and how does it make you feel? And also, tell me that I'm not the only one. I need to be validated for this, please.
That's a little bit intense. She said a trap door is gonna open while she's in a pool, and there's gonna eat her. She think this is a jigsaw? It's not Saw.
Leah Roberts vanished without a trace on March 23rd of the year 2000. She was 23 years old, and after leaving a restaurant in Bellingham, Washington, she just vanished in thin air. She had driven there all the way from Durham, North Carolina, and she'd been staying there for 4 days. Later on, her vehicle was found crashed and deserted in North Cascades National Park. And finding her car happened years after her disappearance. Upon going over the car and searching it, investigators found a lot of tampering in the car's engine. Authorities suggested that the vehicle has been purposely tampered with. There was footage of her entering a gas station, and she looked to be in good condition, and she was alone. But the weird thing about the footage, she keeps peering outside as if somebody's following her, if she's paranoid that somebody's watching her. Days before this, she withdrew almost everything from her bank account. Until this day, Leah Roberts' disappearance is still a mystery, and it is still unsolved. She had gone through a lot of trauma though, so people think she just kind of went off grid. She lost both of her parents in a very short span of time. She was a very bright student in North Carolina, but she dropped out of college a semester before she graduated to go soul searching. And once again, many think this is because of the trauma of losing her parents. But because she's alone, somebody well could have abducted her and taken her hostage. Scary thing about these cases, we might never know what happened. Let me know what you guys think about Leah Roberts' case in the comment section below, and as always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
So much has happened in the past 24 hours, it's insane. Trump announced that US residency is now officially up for sale. They unveiled this brand new visa program which has never been done before, called the Gold Card. It allows you to work in the US, gives you a route to citizenship, and it costs $5 million. Trump says that it will bring in wealthy, world-class global citizens. Next, Chile declared a state of emergency last night after a blackout plunged almost 19 million people into complete darkness. It affected almost the entire country. Hospitals, prisons, and government buildings were switched to backup generators. The internet and mobile phone services went down. You couldn't withdraw cash. National Guard forces were deployed onto the streets, and a curfew from 10 p.m. till 6 a.m. was put in place. Next, Trump signed a price transparency executive order, which forces hospitals and health insurers to disclose healthcare cost details, and not estimates, but actual prices. Next, phone theft in the UK has got so bad that the government has given police new powers to enter properties without a warrant if tracking apps like Find My see that stolen devices are inside. In fact, this is just one of a whole package of new laws passed by the British government in order to tackle the country's knife crime, shop theft, antisocial behavior, cybercrime, etc. It's become one of the biggest legislative updates for policing in decades. Next, more than 250,000 Canadians have signed a parliamentary petition to try and revoke Elon Musk's citizenship and passport. If you didn't know, Elon is a triple citizen of South Africa, the United States, and Canada. Next, a mystery illness in the Congo has killed more than 50 people only hours after they began feeling sick. The Africa office for the WHO said that the outbreak began after 3 children ate a bat and died within 48 hours. CNN report that the still unknown illness has symptoms which are commonly linked to known deadly viruses such as Ebola, dengue, Marburg, and yellow fever, but that researchers have ruled these out based on tests of more than a dozen samples they've collected so far. Next, and lastly, you ever wondered what happens if someone dies on a plane but you're still halfway there? Yesterday on a Qatar Airlines flight, a woman collapsed in the aisle and died. Cabin crew tried to move her body towards business class, but, quote, she was quite a large lady and they couldn't get her through the aisle. So instead, they had to place her corpse, covered in blankets, next to this couple from Australia for the remaining 4 hours of the flight. As always.
Man, I wish them boys on that bike try to steal my phone. I would run quicker than the bike. Like, I don't think you guys understand. I'm a very fast guy. Like, you know, I can run pretty fast. So if they try that with me, I'm catching them. Like, I'm literally going to football, like, just dive and just tackle them off the bike and just, give me my phone, man. What the... I'm just joking, guys. It's not that serious. I mean, it is that serious, but...
A cold case from New York has recently been reopened after remains were found more than 40 years after the victim disappeared. This is 25-year-old Karen Ramsey, and it is believed that she disappeared from Paterson, New York in May 1980. While police have looked for a missing persons report on Karen, it has been difficult to determine if one was even ever filed. But on April 16, 2024, almost exactly 44 years later, her body was found wrapped in plastic under concrete about 8 miles from her home. Her remains were found during excavation work for a new home in a heavily wooded area in Patterson. According to a neighbor, clothing and tape were found with her remains. DNA evidence identified the remains as belonging to Karen Ramsey on June 7th, but at this point, it is unclear where the sample came from to test against. Karen had been living in a condo complex in Brewster, New York with her husband John Ramsey before she disappeared. She had married John a few years after high school after they met working in the same building. At the time they had met, John was married to another woman, but they fell in love, he got divorced, and married Karen. In October 1977, the couple purchased a condo with both of their signatures appearing on a document when they purchased it. And then on September 28, 1981, their signatures both appear again on the sale of the condo. But this was more than a year after police believe Karen disappeared. And the Karen Ramsey signature on the documents do not look very similar. The document was notarized on August 17th for the sale, but the notary has since died, so they can't be questioned. According to court records, John Ramsey sued his wife for divorce in August 1980, and he also took out a legal notice around that time, claiming that his wife abandoned him and their infant. John Ramsey died in 2022, and according to his obituary, he married a woman in October 1981, just days after Karen's signature was on the condo sales papers. Karen Ramsey's death has been ruled a homicide, but her cause of death has not been made public. But the investigation into her death is ongoing, and police are trying to determine what happened to her. But right now, it's just an investigation because there have been no real leads. Apart from the fact that her signature on the purchase and sale of the condo do look different. But this doesn't prove anything, and other than that, they haven't really gone anywhere. But this investigation is honestly just getting started as her body was just identified last month. So hopefully Karen will get the justice she deserves. Rest in peace, Karen.
If you just won 30 mil and your mom's left eye surgery cost 29 mil, what you doing? We've got eyes at home. Now this is creative. I can definitely do Patrick's. That's facts. Email from HR. Your request for time off has been denied. Me on my flight, I didn't ask. I was just making sure you were aware I'm on vacation. If your boss dresses like this, you're not getting replaced by AI. If your lawyer comes in like that, you're going to jail. Roommate just said, I can't believe we've never had to buy trash bags. My roommate asked me why the cleaning lady didn't come this week. The week I didn't. First day at the job, I'm nervous AF. Bro is not getting paid. Okay, serious question. What's this for? We call it the old... Tucson Cartier necklace worn by Daphne Kluger for the Met Gala, valued at over $100 million. Purely hypothetical, how could you sell a $150 million necklace? Facebook Marketplace. Next question.
Oh, you're gonna love this one, the shampoo conspiracy. Something that you use every day, but do you know who's really behind it and what it's really doing to you? Disclaimer, the ideas presented here are not theories. They're all verifiable facts. So you go over to your local grocery store to do some shopping and you realize you haven't washed your hair in over a month. It's time to clean up. You head to the shampoo aisle and you're met with dozens, maybe even over 100 different options to choose from. Quite the variety, right? Surely you can find a brand that's right for you. Well, my friend, what if I told you that 90% of these shampoos are all owned by the same 3 to 4 mega corporations, all of which have one common top shareholder. This is the shadow shampoo oligopoly, and they're all kind of working against you together. So here are the top 20 or so most popular shampoo brands in America, and they're all owned, or at least partially owned, by these 4 mega corporations. But there's nothing really wrong with that. I mean, these companies are worth hundreds of billions of dollars, so they definitely must put the customer first, right? Oh, my starry-eyed little friend, let me introduce you to a very simple business practice called going public. So when you start a company, you begin as what we call a small business, a little family-owned mom and pop shop that brings some sort of product or service into the world. As you grow, you hire more people, make more money, and produce more incredible products or services to your customers. Now, I'm gonna dumb this down a lot, as there's so much more that goes into this, but I won't bore you with the details. This ain't a business course. But to keep it very simple, eventually most companies who want to make it big hit a wall, where they're not able to grow more because they lack the money required to invest in that next big thing for their business, whether it be more employees, more inventory, new equipment, bigger advertising budgets, etc. So they take out loans, look for sponsors, investors, and venture capitalists to get that money. But sometimes even that's not enough. So in order to get a lot of money really fast, they go public through an IPO, an initial public offering, which basically means their company is now going to be traded on the stock market. Now, being on the stock market means you no longer fully own your own business anymore. Your You're trading small percentage ownerships in your business called shares to the public in exchange for cash. If that company proceeds to grow and make more money, the value of its shares go up, and the people who bought them make a profit, either through dividends or selling the shares. Now, both people and other companies can invest in publicly traded businesses by buying their shares on the stock market and are called the shareholders. So you gotta realize these companies that go public sorta now have two different categories of customers they have to serve. They have the consumers who actually buy their products or services, and now they also have the shareholders who have sort of become customers of the company as well. You following me so far? Now here is where it gets interesting. The regular Joe Schmo shareholders like you and I don't really make much of an impact from our couple $1,000 or whatever that we invest in these companies. What happens is giant investment conglomerates invest hundreds of millions, even billions of dollars into these companies. Investment firms like BlackRock and Vanguard, who sort of become these super mega customers of the companies they invest in. And these companies must now do something called please the shareholder, or else these giant investment firms pull their funding these companies now rely on and put them out of business. Pleasing the shareholder usually means the company now has to get their consumers, that other group of customers they have that actually buy their products, to buy their products or services as often as possible, so they can increase how much their company is worth, known as market cap, by whatever means it takes. Sometimes even to the ultimate detriment of the consumer, so the shareholders stay happy and keep their money in the company. Stock market 101 for dummies. So we went a little bit off the rails just now. Let's dial it back. Oh yes, the shampoo cabal, the 4 megacorps that basically own almost every shampoo product ever, all of which are of course publicly traded companies on the stock market. Let's see who the top shareholders of these companies are, shall we? Procter & Gamble. Oh, look at that. Vanguard. Unilever. Yup, that's Vanguard. And Johnson & Johnson. Well, what do you know? Vanguard. Meaning these companies' top customer isn't the person using their shampoo, but rather $1 trillion investment conglomerate who by definition is literally only concerned with profit. L'Oreal is actually pretty well balanced and are still technically majority family owned by, of course, a billion-dollar family, the Betancourts. But you can see their top shareholders are also big investment firms, and oh look, there's Vanguard again. Now, we're not done yet, because pretty much all of these companies have all been involved in major lawsuits due to their shampoos making people's hair fall out, drying out their skin, damaging their hair, and many other reasons. Class action lawsuits that they've resolved through settlements, meaning they basically admitted, yeah, our bad, our shampoo might have done that, so here's some money. But wait just a minute, if their shampoo makes people's hair fall out, doesn't that mean they're gonna stop buying shampoo because they're not gonna have any hair to wash anymore? Well, these same companies also make all the products that allegedly make your hair grow back, hydrates dry scalps, and fixes damaged hair. Nioxin, Procter & Gamble, Rogaine, Johnson & Johnson, you get the drill. Products that are inherently more expensive due to their medical properties and that the consumer will have to buy more often to benefit from its effects. Welcome to pleasing the shareholder. Now, I'm not saying that every publicly traded company is this evil mega corporation that feeds on your soul, but I can tell you, if any of these companies ever have the option between getting a consumer to buy something once in a while versus forcing a consumer to buy a much more expensive product all the f***ing time, you can bet they're choosing that one. And just apply this logic to what happened in 2020 and 2021 and you'll start to notice something. Okay, I'm gonna stop now before I get in trouble, but huge shout out to this legend Ian Carroll for bringing this to light. He's the one I learned this from, so definitely him if you want to learn more. At the end of the day, remember to shop local and support small businesses, because those are the ones that really do have your back.
Nah, he's for real. Like, I feel like local businesses mostly has the consumers' priorities in mind. They have the consumers in mind compared to these big mega corporations that just really want more profit. These, even with the eggs, like nowadays in the US, I think because of Trump's tariffs, like the eggs are expensive. But if you go to like local farms in the US, 1, you get cheaper prices, and 2, you get better quality eggs. If I'm being honest, Vanguard is like a multi-billion-dollar corporation. So I could see why they're mostly in the investing space. Remember, creepy vlog dropping this Friday. So if you guys aren't a member of the channel and you want to see it early, you could become a member, but if you want to wait it out, you can wait it out. It's only like 2 days, so it's not that crazy.
Thank you all for watching this here video. Please like and subscribe.